Questionno. An achievement in providing worldwide Internet security was assigning of certificates associated with which of the following protocols: ATCP, IP, BSSL, CSCP, DSSH. B. Questionno. A Chief Information Security Officer wants to implement two-factor authentication within the company. Which of the following would fulfill the CISO's requirements? A. Username and password. B. Retina scan and fingerprint scan. C. USB token and PIN. D. Proximity badge and token. C. Questionno. 3. Which of the following can a security administrator implement on mobile devices that will help prevent unwanted people from viewing the data if the device is left unattended? A. Screen lock. B. Voice encryption. C. GPS tracking. D. Device encryption. A. Questionno. 4. Which of the following would a security administrator implement in order to identify a problem between two systems that are not communicating properly? A. Protocol analyzer. B. Baseline reports. C. Risk assessment. D. Vulnerability scan. A. Questionno. 5. Which of the following can result in significant administrative overhead from incorrect reporting? A. Job rotation. B. Acceptable usage policies. C. False positives. D. Mandatory vacations. C. B. Questionno. 7. Which of the following risk concepts requires an organization to determine the number of failures per year? A. SLE. B. LCMT. B. FD. Quantitative analysis. B. B. Questionno. 9. 3 of the primary security control types that can be implemented are: A. Supervisory, subordinate, and peer. B. Personal, procedural, and legal. C. Operational, technical, and management. D. Mandatory, discretionary, and permanent. C. D. Questionno. 11. Which of the following protocols operates at the highest level of the OSI model? A. ICMP. B. IPsec. C. SCPD. TCP. C. B. Questionno. 13. Which of the following should an administrator implement to research current attack methodologies? A. Design reviews. B. Honeypot. C. Vulnerability scanner. D. Code reviews. B. Questionno. 14. Which of the following can be implemented in hardware or software to protect a web server from cross-site scripting attacks? A. Intrusion detection system. B. FlexGuard protection. C. Web application firewall. D. URL content filter. C. Questionno. 15. Which of the following means of wireless authentication is easily vulnerable to spoofing? A. MAC filtering. B. WPA. Leap. C. WPA. PEAPD enabled SID. A. C. E. Questionno. 17. Jane. A security administrator needs to implement a secure wireless authentication method that uses a remote radius server for authentication. Which of the following is an authentication method Jane should use? A. WPA2 PSK. B. WEP PSK. C. CCMPD Leap. D. Questionno. 18. Computer evidence at a crime scene is documented with a tag stating who had possession of the evidence at a given time. Which of the following does this illustrate? A. System image capture. B. Record time offset. C. Order of volatility. D. Chain of custody. D. B. Questionno. 20. Which of the following is being tested when a company's payroll server is powered off for 8 hours? A. Succession plan. B. Business impact document. C. Continuity of operations plan. D. Risk assessment plan. C. B. C. C. B. Questionno. 25. A network engineer is designing a secure tunneled VPN. Which of the following protocols would be the MOST secure? AISEC BSFTP CBGPD PPTP. A. Questionno. 26. Which of the following implementation steps would be appropriate for a public wireless hotspot? A. Reduce power level. B. Disable SID broadcast. C. Open system authentication. D. MAC filter. C. D. Questionno. 28. Which of the following controls would allow a company to reduce the exposure of sensitive systems from unmanaged devices on internal networks? A. 802.1xb data encryption. C. Password strength. DDGP. A. Questionno. 29. Which of the following preventative controls would be appropriate for responding to a directive to reduce the attack surface of a specific host? A. Installing anti-malware. B. Implementing an IDS. C. Taking a baseline configuration. D. Disabling unnecessary services. D. Questionno. 30. A security manager must remain aware of the security posture of each system. Which of the following supports this requirement? A. Training staff on security policies. B. Establishing baseline reporting. C. Installing anti-malware software. D. Disabling unnecessary account services. B. Questionno. 31. Deploying a wildcard certificate is one strategy to A. Secure the certificate's private key. B. Increase the certificate's encryption key length. C. Extend the renewal date of the certificate. D. Reduce the certificate management burden. D. Questionno. 32. The security administrator needs to manage traffic on a Layer 3 device to support FTP from a new remote site. Which of the following would need to be implemented? A. Implicit deny. B. VLAN management. C. Port security. D. Access control lists. D. Questionno. 33. Which of the following ports is used for SSH by default? A. 23. B. 32. C. 12. D. 22. D. Questionno. 34. A network administrator has been tasked with securing the LAN. Which of the following cryptographic products would be used to provide the MOST secure environment for the LAN? A. WPA2 CCMP. B. WPA-C. WPA with MAC filtering. D. WPA2 KIP. A. B. Questionno. 36. Which of the following ciphers would be best used to encrypt streaming video? A. RSABRC4 CSHA1 D3 DES. B. C. B. D. A. B. Questionno. 42. Which of the following is best at blocking attacks and providing security at Layer 7 of the OSI model? A. WAF. B. NID. C. Routers. D. Switches. A. Questionno. 43. Which of the following is best used to capture and analyze network traffic between hosts on the same network segment? A. Protocol analyzer. B. Router. C. Firewall. D. IPS. A. A. Questionno. 45. Which of the following functions provides an output which cannot be reversed and converts data into a string of characters? A. Hashing. B. Stream ciphers. C. Steganography. D. Block ciphers. A. Questionno. 46. Which of the following encrypts data a single bit at a time? A. Stream cipher. B. Steganography. C. 3DES hashing. A. Questionno. 47. Which of the following is used to verify data integrity? A. SHA-B 3DESC. A. ESD RSA. A. Questionno. 48. By default, which of the following uses TCP port 22? A. FTPS. B. StelNet. C. TLS. DSCP. ESSL. F. HTTPS. GSSH. HSFTP. D. G. H. D. B. Questionno 51A Security Administrator is segregating all web-facing server traffic from the internal network and restricting it to a single interface on a firewall. Which of the following best describes this new network? A. VLAN B. Subnet C. VPN D. DMZ. D. Questionno 52 Which of the following was based on a previous X500 specification and allows either unencrypted authentication or encrypted authentication through the use of TLS? A. Kerberos B. TechX plus C. Radius D. LDAP. D. Questionno 53 The quality assurance team is testing a new third-party developed application. The quality team does not have any experience with the application. Which of the following is the team performing? A. Gray box testing B. Black box testing C. Penetration testing D. White box testing. B. Questionno 54 Which of the following has a storage root key? A. HSMB EFSC TPMD KIP. C. Questionno 55A. Agenda requires that staff be able to identify whether or not items have been removed from the facility. Which of the following controls will allow the organization to provide automated notification of item removal? A. CCTV B. Environmental monitoring C. RFID D. EMI shielding. C. B. Questionno 57 The concept of rendering data passing between 2 points over an IP-based network impervious to all but the most sophisticated advanced persistent threats is best categorized as which of the following? A. Stream ciphers B. Transport encryption C. Key escrow D. Block ciphers. B. D. Questionno 59 Which of the following would best deter an attacker trying to brute force 4-digit PIN numbers to access an account at a bank teller machine? A. Account expiration settings B. Complexity of PIN C. Account lockout settings D. PIN history requirements. C. B. C. A. D. Questionno 62 A system administrator is configuring Unix accounts to authenticate against an external server. The configuration file asks for the following information: DC equals server name and DC equals com. Which of the following authentication services is being used? A. Radius B. SAML C. TechX plus DLDAP. D. Questionno 63 In Kerberos, the ticket granting ticket is used for which of the following? A. Identification B. Authorization C. Authentication D. Multi-factor authentication. C. Questionno 64 Which of the following network design elements allows for many internal devices to share one public IP address? A. NAT B. PAT C. DNS D. DMZ. B. Questionno 65 Which of the following components of an all-in-one security appliance would most likely be configured in order to restrict access to peer-to-peer file sharing websites? A. Spam filter B. URL filter C. Content inspection D. Malware inspection. B. 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 Questionno 69 Anne would like to forward some personal identifiable information to her HR department by email, but she is worried about the confidentiality of the information. Which of the following will accomplish this task securely? A. Digital signatures B. Hashing C. Secret key D. Encryption. D. Questionno 70 A company is trying to limit the risk associated with the use of unapproved USB devices to copy documents. Which of the following would be the best technology control to use in this scenario? A. Content filtering B. IDSC audit logs DDLP. D. Questionno 71 A company is trying to implement physical deterrent controls to improve the overall security posture of their data center. Which of the following best meets their goal? A. Visitor logs B. Firewall C. Hardware logs D. Environmental monitoring. A. B. B. Questionno 74. A bank has recently deployed mobile tablets to all loan officers for use at customer sites. Which of the following would best prevent the disclosure of customer data in the event that a tablet is lost or stolen? A. Application control. B. Remote wiping. C. GPSD screen locks. B. Questionno 75. Which of the following is the primary security concern when deploying a mobile device on a network? A. Strong authentication. B. Interoperability. C. Data security. D. Cloud storage technique. C. Questionno 76. Which of the following technical controls is best used to define which applications a user can install and run on a company-issued mobile device? A. Authentication. B. Blacklisting. C. Waitlisting. D. Acceptable use policy. C. D. Questionno 78. A security administrator discovers an image file that has several plain text documents hidden in the file. Which of the following security goals is met by camouflaging data inside of other files? A. Integrity. B. Confidentiality. C. Steganography. D. Availability. C. D. B. D. Questionno 81. During the analysis of a PCAP file, a security analyst noticed several communications with a remote server on port 53. Which of the following protocol types is observed in this traffic? A. FTP. B. DNS. C. Email. D. Net BIOS. B. C. Questionno 83. During which of the following phases of the incident response process should a security administrator define and implement general defense against malware? A. Lessons learned. B. Preparation. C. Eradication. D. Identification. B. C. Questionno 85. Joe, a user, wants to send an encrypted email to Anne. Which of the following will Anne need to use to verify that the email came from Joe and decrypt it? A. The CA's public key. B. Anne's public key. C. Joe's private key. D. Anne's private key. E. The CA's private key. F. Joe's public key. D. F. Questionno 86. Joe, a user, wants to send an encrypted email to Anne. Which of the following will Anne need to use to verify the validities of Joe's certificate? A. The CA's public key. B. Joe's private key. C. Anne's public key. D. The CA's private key. E. Joe's public key. F. Anne's private key. A. E. A. C. A. B. C. B. B. D. Questionno 95. Identifying residual risk is most important to which of the following concepts? A. Risk deterrence. B. Risk acceptance. C. Risk mitigation. D. Risk avoidance. B. D. E. F. D. Questionno 99. A security team has established a security awareness program. Which of the following would best prove the success of the program? A. Policies. B. Procedures. C. Metrics. D. Standards. C. Questionno 100. A company needs to receive data that contains personally identifiable information. The company requires both the transmission and data at rest to be encrypted. Which of the following achieves this goal? A. SSHBT. FTPC. NTLMD. KIP. ESMTP. FPGPGPG. A. F. A. Pass any exam, anytime. www.actualtests.com 37 Question number 102. Which of the following would allow the organization to divide a Class C IP address range into several ranges? A. DMZ, virtual LAN, CNET, D. subnetting. D. Questionno 103. The security administrator is currently unaware of an incident that occurred a week ago. Which of the following will ensure the administrator is notified in a timely manner in the future? A. User permissions reviews, B. Incident response team, C. Change management, D. Routine auditing. D. Questionno 104. An access point has been configured for AES encryption, but a client is unable to connect to it. Which of the following should be configured on the client to fix this issue? A. WEPBCCMPC TKIP DRC4. B. B. A. F. Questionno 107. Which of the following attacks would cause all mobile devices to lose their association with corporate access points while the attack is underway? A. Wireless jamming, B. Evil twin, C. Rogue APT packet sniffing. A. Questionno 108. An administrator wants to ensure that the reclaimed space of a hard drive has been sanitized while the computer is in use. Which of the following can be implemented? A. Cluster tip wiping, B. Individual file encryption, C. Full disk encryption, D. Storage retention. A. D. B. D. A. C. D. Questionno 115. An auditing team has found that passwords do not meet best business practices. Which of the following will most increase the security of the passwords? A. Password complexity, B. Password expiration, C. Password age, D. Password length, E. Password history. A. D. B. D. A. A. C. D. A. Questionno 123. Which of the following describes a type of malware which is difficult to reverse engineer in a virtual lab? A. Armored virus, B. Polymorphic malware, C. Logic bomb, D. Root. A. B. D. D. E. C. A. A. Questionno 130. An administrator wants to establish a Wi-Fi network using a high-gain directional antenna with a narrow radiation pattern to connect two buildings separated by a very long distance. Which of the following antennas would be best for this situation? A. Dipole, B. Yargi, C. Sector, D. Omni. B. Questionno 131. An attacker used an undocumented and unknown application exploit to gain access to a file server. Which of the following best describes this type of attack? A. Integer overflow, B. Cross-site scripting, C. Zero-day D. Session hijacking, E. XML injection. C. Questionno 132. Which of the following is an XML-based open standard used in the exchange of authentication and authorization information between different parties? A. LDAP, B. SAML, C. TACX plus D. Kerberos. B. Questionno 133. Which of the following ports and protocol types must be opened on a host with a host-based firewall to allow incoming SFTP connections? A21/UDP, B21/TCP, C22/UDP, D22/TCP. D. D. Questionno 135. Which of the following controls can be implemented together to prevent data loss in the event of theft of a mobile device storing sensitive information? A. Full device encryption, B. Screen lock, C. GPS, D. Asset tracking, E. Inventory control. A. B. Questionno 136. A way to assure data at rest is secure even in the event of loss or theft is to use A. Full device encryption, B. Special permissions on the file system, C. Trusted platform module integration, D. Access control lists. A. B. Questionno 138. A security analyst is reviewing firewall logs while investigating a compromised web server. The following ports appear in the log: 22, 25, 445, 1433, 3128, 3389, 6667. Which of the following protocols was used to access the server remotely? LDAP, B. HTTP, C. RDP, HTTPS. C. Questionno 139. An organization does not want the wireless network name to be easily discovered. Which of the following software features should be configured on the access points? A. SID broadcast, B. MAC filter, C. WPA2D antenna placement. A. D. C. Questionno 142. In which of the following steps of incident response does the team analyze the incident and determine steps to prevent a future occurrence? A. Mitigation, B. Identification, C. Preparation, D. Lessons learned. D. B. Questionno 144. A security administrator must implement a wireless encryption system to secure mobile devices communication. Some users have mobile devices which only support 56-bit encryption. Which of the following wireless encryption methods should be implemented? ARC4, BAES, CMD5, DKIP. A. A. C. Questionno 147. Joe, a user, reports to the system administrator that he is receiving an error stating his certificate has been revoked. Which of the following is the name of the database repository for these certificates? ACSRB, OSCPC, CODCRL. D. D. E. B. Questionno 150. Users are encouraged to click on a link in an email to obtain exclusive access to the newest version of a popular smartphone. This is an example of A. Scarcity, B. Familiarity, C. Intimidation, D. Trust. A. Questionno 151. Which of the following types of attacks involves interception of authentication traffic in an attempt to gain unauthorized access to a wireless network? A. Near-field communication before attack, C. Evil twin, D. Replay attack. B. B. Questionno 153. Which of the following types of authentication packages user credentials in a ticket? A. Kerberos, B. LDAP, C. TACX plus D. Radius. A. Questionno 154. Which of the following is required to allow multiple servers to exist on one physical server? A. Software as a service, B. Platform as a service, C. Virtualization, D. Infrastructure as a service. C. C. D. Questionno 157 LDAP and Kerberos are commonly used for which of the following? A. To perform queries on a directory service. B. To store usernames and passwords for federated identity. C. To sign SSL wildcard certificates for subdomains. D. To utilize single sign-on capabilities. D. Questionno 158 An administrator needs to renew a certificate for a web server. Which of the following should be submitted to a CA, ACSRB recovery agency, private key DCRL? A. Questionno 159 An administrator needs to submit a new CSR to a CA. Which of the following is a valid first step? A. Generate a new private key based on AES. B. Generate a new public key based on RSA. C. Generate a new public key based on AES. D. Generate a new private key based on RSA. D. A. B. Questionno 162 A security engineer Joe has been asked to create a secure connection between his mail server and the mail server of a business partner. Which of the following protocol would be most appropriate? A. HTTPS. B. SSH. FTP. DTLS. D. D. Questionno 164 A recent vulnerability scan found that Telnet is enabled on all network devices. Which of the following protocols should be used instead of Telnet? ASCP. BSSH. CSFTP. DSSL. B. B. Questionno 166 A network administrator is asked to send a large file containing PI to a business associate. Which of the following protocols is the best choice to use? ASSH. BSFTP. CSMTP. DFTP. B. C. Pass any exam, anytime. www.actualtests.com 62 Question number 168 A malicious individual is attempting to write too much data to an application's memory. Which of the following describes this type of attack? A. 0DB SQL injection. C. Buffer overflow. DXSRF. C. Questionno 169 An a security administrator wishes to replace their radius authentication with a more secure protocol which can utilize EAP. Which of the following would best fit her objective? A. Chat. B. SAML. C. Kerberos. D. Diameter. D. C. C. D. A. A. D. C. D. C. B. F. D. A. C. A. Questionno 183 N the security administrator wishes to implement multi-factor security. Which of the following should be implemented in order to complement password usage and smart cards? A. Hard tokens. B. Fingerprint readers. C. Swipe badge readers. D. Passphrases. B. D. A. C. Questionno 187 A small business needs to incorporate fault tolerance into their infrastructure to increase data availability. Which of the following options would be the best solution at a minimal cost? A. Clustering. B. Mirrored server. C. RAID. D. Tape backup. C. C. Questionno 189 N wants to send a file to Joe using PKI. Which of the following should N use in order to sign the file? A. Joe's public key. B. Joe's private key. C. N's public key. D. N's private key. D. Questionno 190 Which of the following protocols is used to validate whether trust is in place and accurate by returning responses of either good, unknown, or revoked? A. CRL. B. PKI. C. O. C. S. P. D. R. A. C. D. 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 C. Questionno 195 A security engineer is asked by the company's development team to recommend the most secure method for password storage. Which of the following provide the best protection against brute forcing stored passwords? A. PBKDF2 BMD5 CSHA2 DBCRYPTEA ESF CHAP. A. D. B. D. Questionno 198 When creating a public/private key pair, for which of the following ciphers would a user need to specify the key strength? A. SHA. B. AESC DUST RSA. D. A. Questionno 200 Which of the following solutions provides the most flexibility when testing new security controls prior to implementation? A. Trusted OSB host software baselining. C. OS hardening. D. Virtualization. D. Questionno 201 Which of the following authentication services requires the use of a ticket-granting ticket server in order to complete the authentication process? A. TAGX plus B. Secure LDA PC Radius D. Kerberos. D. C. Questionno 214 Which of the following MOST interferes with network-based detection techniques? A. MIME encoding. B. SSL. C. FTPD anonymous email accounts. B. Questionno 215 A certificate authority takes which of the following actions in PKI? A. Signs and verifies all infrastructure messages. B. Issues and signs all private keys. C. Publishes key escrow lists to CRLs. D. Issues and signs all root certificates. D. Questionno 216 Use of a smart card to authenticate remote servers remains MOST susceptible to which of the following attacks? A. Malicious code on the local system. B. Shoulder surfing. C. Brute force certificate cracking. D. Distributed dictionary attacks. A. B. C. Questionno 219 Jane An individual has recently been calling various financial offices pretending to be another person to gain financial information. Which of the following attacks is being described? A. Phishing. B. Tailgating. C. Farming. D. Vishing. D. D. Questionno 221 A CRL is comprised of A. Malicious IP addresses. B. Trusted CAs. C. Untrusted private keys. D. Public keys. D. Questionno 222 Sarah, a user, downloads a Kagan to install pirated software. After running the Kagan, system performance is extremely slow and numerous antivirus alerts are displayed. Which of the following best describes this type of malware? A. Logic bomb. B. Worm. C. Trojan. D. Adware. C. Questionno 223 Which of the following may significantly reduce data loss if multiple drives fail at the same time? A. Virtualization. B. RAID. C. Load balancing. D. Server clustering. B. Questionno 224. Which of the following should be considered to mitigate data theft when using Kit 5 wiring? A. CCTV. B. Environmental monitoring. C. Multimode fiber. D. ME shielding. D. Questionno 225. To help prevent unauthorized access to PCs, a security administrator implements screensavers that lock the PC after 5 minutes of inactivity. Which of the following controls is being described in the situation? A. Management. B. Administrative. C. Technical. D. Operational. C. B. Questionno 227. Which of the following IP addresses would be hosts on the same subnet given the subnet mask 255.255.255.224, A. 10.4.4.125, B. 10.4.4.158, C. 10.4.4.165, D. 10.4.4.189, E. 10.4.4.199. C. D. Questionno 228. Which of the following algorithms has well-documented collisions? A. AES-BMD5, C. SHA-256 ERSA. B. C. Questionno 229. Which of the following is best used as a secure replacement for Telnet? A. HTTPS. B. HMACC. GPGDSSH. D. Questionno 230. An email client says a digital signature is invalid and the sender cannot be verified. The recipient is concerned with which of the following concepts? A. Integrity. B. Availability. C. Confidentiality. D. Remediation. A. Questionno 231. Which of the following is an effective way to ensure the best temperature for all equipment within a data center? A. Fire suppression. B. Raised floor implementation. C. ME shielding. D. Hot or cool aisle containment. D. Questionno 232. Which of the following transportation encryption protocols should be used to ensure maximum security between a web browser and a web server? A. SSL-v2, B. SSH-v1, C. RSA-DTLS. D. Questionno 233. Developers currently have access to update production servers without going through an approval process. Which of the following strategies would best mitigate this risk? A. Incident management. B. Clean desk policy. C. Routine audits. D. Change management. D. Questionno 234. Which of the following is the difference between TFTP and FTP? A. TFTP is slower than FTP. B. TFTP is more secure than FTP. C. TFTP utilizes TCP and FTP uses UDP. D. TFTP utilizes UDP and FTP uses TCP. D. B. Questionno 236. Which of the following is characterized by an attacker attempting to map out an organization's staff hierarchy in order to send targeted emails? A. Whaling. B. Impersonation. C. Privilege escalation. D. Spear phishing. A. Questionno 237. Which of the following would a security administrator implement in order to discover comprehensive security threats on a network? A. Design reviews. B. Baseline reporting. C. Vulnerability scan. D. Code review. C. A. Questionno 239. Data execution prevention is a feature in most operating systems intended to protect against which type of attack? A. Cross-site scripting. B. Buffer overflow. C. Header manipulation. D. SQL injection. B. Questionno 240. Use of group accounts should be minimized to ensure which of the following? A. Password security. B. Regular auditing. C. Baseline management. D. Individual accountability. D. Questionno 241. Privilege creep among long-term employees can be mitigated by which of the following procedures? A. User permission reviews. B. Mandatory vacation. C. Separation of duties. D. Job function rotation. A. C. Questionno 243. Configuring the mode, encryption methods, and security associations are part of which of the following? A. IPsec full disk encryption C802.1 XDPKI. A. Questionno 244. Which of the following assessments would Pete, the security administrator, use to actively test that an application's security controls are in place? A. Code review. B. Penetration test. C. Protocol analyzer. D. Vulnerability scan. B. Questionno 245. A security administrator has just finished creating a hot site for the company. This implementation relates to which of the following concepts? A. Confidentiality. B. Availability. C. Succession planning. D. Integrity. B. A. D. Questionno 247. Which of the following is used to certify intermediate authorities in a large PKI deployment? A. Root. C. A. B. Recovery agent. C. Root user. D. Key escrow. A. Questionno 248. Which of the following components must be trusted by all parties in PKI? A. Key escrow. B. C. Private key. D. Recovery key. B. Questionno 249. Which of the following should match a security administrator include when encrypting smartphones? A. Steganography images. B. Internal memory. C. Master boot records. D. Removable memory cards. E. Public keys. B. D. Questionno 250. Which of the following is the below pseudocode an example of? If variable then exit. A. Buffer overflow prevention. B. Input validation. C. CSRF prevention. D. Cross-site scripting prevention. B. Questionno 251. A system administrator is using a packet sniffer to troubleshoot remote authentication. The administrator detects a device trying to communicate to TCP port 49. Which of the following authentication methods is most likely being attempted? A. Radius. B. TACX plus. C. Kerberos. D. LDAP. B. Questionno 252. Which of the following can use RC4 for encryption? A. CHAP. B. SSL. C. WEPDAES. E. 3DES. B. C. Questionno 253. Which of the following defines a business goal for system restoration and acceptable data loss? A. MTTR. B. MTBF. C. RPOD. Warm site. C. Questionno 254. If organization A trusts organization B and organization B trusts organization C, then organization A trusts organization C. Which of the following PKI concepts is this describing? A. Transitive trust. B. Public key trust. C. Certificate authority trust. D. Domain level trust. A. Questionno 255. Which of the following concepts is best described as developing a new chain of command in the event of a contingency? A. Business continuity planning. B. Continuity of operations. C. Business impact analysis. D. Succession planning. D. Questionno 256. Which of the following allows a company to maintain access to encrypted resources when employee turnover is high? A. Recovery agent. B. Certificate authority. C. Trust model. D. Key escrow. A. Questionno 257. Which of the following devices will help prevent a laptop from being removed from a certain location? A. Device encryption. B. Cable lock. C. GPS tracking. D. Remote data wipes. B. Questionno 258. Which of the following is the most secure protocol to transfer files? A. FTP. B. FTPS. C. SSH. Telnet. B. D. C. Questionno 261. Which of the following protocols is used to authenticate the client and server's digital certificate? APE. APB. DNS. CTLS. DICMP. C. Questionno 262. Which of the following can be used to mitigate risk if the mobile device is lost? A. Cable lock. B. Transport encryption. C. Voice encryption. D. Strong passwords. D. Questionno 263. Which of the following security concepts would Sarah, the security administrator, use to mitigate the risk of data loss? A. Record time offset. B. Clean desk policy. C. Cloud computing. D. Routine log review. B. Questionno 264. Which of the following is an example of multi-factor authentication? A. Credit card and PIN. B. Username and password. C. Password and PIN. D. Fingerprint and retina scan. A. B. Questionno 266. Which of the following should the security administrator implement to limit web traffic based on country of origin? A. Spam filter. B. Load balancer. C. Antivirus. D. Proxies. E. Firewall. F. NIDS. G. URL filtering. D. E. G. Questionno 267. Several bins are located throughout a building for secure disposal of sensitive information. Which of the following does this prevent? A. Dumpster diving. B. War driving. C. Tailgating. D. War chalking. A. C. D. Questionno 270. Mike, a network administrator, has been asked to passively monitor network traffic to the company's sales websites. Which of the following would be best suited for this task? A. It's B. Firewall. C. NIPS. D. Spam filter. C. Questionno 271. Mike, a security professional, is tasked with actively verifying the strength of the security controls on a company's live modem pool. Which of the following activities is most appropriate? A. War dialing. B. War chalking. C. War driving. D. Blue snarfing. A. Questionno 272. Users at a company report that a popular news website keeps taking them to a web page with derogatory content. This is an example of which of the following? A. Evil twin. B. DNS poisoning. C. Phishing. D. Session hijacking. B. Questionno 273. An encrypted message is sent using PKI from Sarah, a client, to a customer. Sarah claims she never sent the message. Which of the following aspects of PKI best ensures the identity of the sender? A. CRL. B. Non-repudiation. C. Trust models. D. Recovery agents. B. Questionno 274. Jane, a security administrator, has observed repeated attempts to break into a server. Which of the following is designed to stop an intrusion on a specific server? A. HITS. B. NIDS. C. HITS. D. NIPS. A. C. C. Questionno 277. A security administrator has configured FTP in passive mode. Which of the following ports should the security administrator allow on the firewall by default? A20. B21. C22. D23. B. C. Questionno 279. A company that purchased an HVAC system for the data center is most concerned with which of the following? A. Availability. B. Integrity. C. Confidentiality. D. Fire suppression. A. C. Questionno 281. Which of the following technologies uses multiple devices to share work? A. Switching. B. Load balancing. C. RAID. D. VPN concentrator. B. Questionno 282. Which of the following protocols uses an asymmetric key to open a session and then establishes a symmetric key for the remainder of the session? A. SFTP. B. HTTPS. ET. FTP. DTLS. B. Questionno 283. Which of the following describes how Sarah, an attacker, can send unwanted advertisements to a mobile device? A. Man in the middle. B. Blue jacking. C. Blue snarfing. D. Packet sniffing. B. Questionno 284. Pete, an employee, is terminated from the company and the legal department needs documents from his encrypted hard drive. Which of the following should be used to accomplish this task? A. Private hash. B. Recovery agent. C. Public key. D. Key escrow. ECRL. B. D. Questionno 285. Which of the following mitigation strategies is established to reduce risk when performing updates to business-critical systems? A. Incident management. B. Server clustering. C. Change management. D. Forensic analysis. C. Questionno 286. Which of the following can Pete, a security administrator, use to distribute the processing effort when generating hashes for a password cracking program? A. RAID. B. Clustering. C. Redundancy. D. Virtualization. B. Questionno 287. Which of the following should Jane, a security administrator, perform before a hard drive is analyzed with forensics tools? A. Identify user habits. B. Disconnect system from network. C. Capture system image. D. Interview witnesses. C. A. Questionno 289. Which of the following allows Pete, a security technician, to provide the MOST secure wireless implementation? A. Implement WPA. B. Disable SID. C. Adjust antenna placement. D. Implement WEP. A. Questionno 290. Which of the following is a management control? A. Logon banners. B. Written security policy. C. SYN attack prevention. D. Access control list. B. Questionno 291. Which of the following security strategies allows a company to limit damage to internal systems and provides loss control? A. Restoration and recovery strategies. B. Deterrent strategies. C. Containment strategies. D. Detection strategies. C. Questionno 292. In order for Sarah, a client, to log on to her desktop computer, she must provide her username, password, and a 4-digit PIN. Which of the following authentication methods is Sarah using? A. 3-factor. B. Single-factor. C. 2-factor. D. 4-factor. B. Questionno 293. Using proximity card readers instead of the traditional key punch doors would help to mitigate A. Impersonation. B. Tailgating. C. Dumpster diving. D. Shoulder surfing. D. Questionno 294. Which of the following application attacks is used to gain access to say A. Cookie stealing. B. Buffer overflow. C. Directory traversal. D. XML injection. B. Questionno 295. Which of the following is an authentication service that uses UDP as a transport medium? A. TAGX plus. B. LDAP. C. Kerberos. D. Radius. D. Questionno 296. Which of the following can be used on a smartphone to best protect against sensitive data loss if the device is stolen? A. Tethering. B. Screen lock. PIN. C. Remote wipe. D. Email password. E. GPS tracking. F. Device encryption. C. F. Questionno 297. Jane, a security analyst, is reviewing logs from hosts across the internet which her company uses to gather data on new malware. Which of the following is being implemented by Jane's company? A. Vulnerability scanner. B. HoneyNet. C. Protocol analyzer. D. Port scanner. B. Questionno 298. Which of the following should Pete, a security manager, implement to reduce the risk of employees working in collusion to embezzle funds from their company? A. Privacy policy. B. Least privilege. C. Acceptable use. D. Mandatory vacations. D. Questionno 299. Which of the following will allow Pete, a security analyst, to trigger a security alert because of a tracking cookie? A. Network-based firewall. B. Anti-spam software. C. Host-based firewall. D. Anti-spyware software. D. Questionno 300. Which of the following protocols allows for secure transfer of files? A. ICMP. BSN. MPCS. FTP. DSCP. ET. FTP. C. D. Questionno 301. Which of the following passwords is the least complex? A. MyTrain 45. B. Mitradin. C. MyTR at in 12. D. MyTR at in number 8. B. B. C. F. J. Questionno 303. Which of the following is an application security coding problem? A. Error and exception handling. B. Patch management. C. Application hardening. D. Application fuzzing. A. Pass any exam, anytime. www.actualtests.com 133. D. Questionno 305. Which of the following is the MOST-specific plan for various problems that can arise within a system? A. Business continuity plan. B. Continuity of operation plan. C. Disaster recovery plan. D. IT contingency plan. D. 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 Questionno 308. Which of the following is an authentication and accounting service that uses TCP for connecting to routers and switches? A. Diameter. B. Radius. C. TACX plus D. Kerberos. C. Pass any exam, anytime. www.actualtests.com 135. Question number 309. Which of the following can best help prevent cross-site scripting attacks and buffer overflows on a production system? A. Input validation. B. Network intrusion detection system. C. Anomaly-based TSD peer review. A. Questionno 310. Pete. An IT administrator needs to secure his server room. Which of the following mitigation methods would provide the MOST physical protection? A. Sign-in and sign-out logs. B. Man-trap. C. Video surveillance. D. HVAC. B. Questionno 311. Which of the following should be connected to the fire alarm system in order to help prevent the spread of a fire in a server room without data loss to assist in Fathom-200 deployment? A. Water-based sprinkler system. B. Electrical. C. HVAC. D. Video surveillance. C. B. Questionno 313. Which of the following fire suppression systems is MOST likely used in a data center? A. FM200. B. Dry pipe. C. Wet pipe. D. Vacuum. A. Questionno 314. A security administrator has installed a new KDC for the corporate environment. Which of the following authentication protocols is the security administrator planning to implement across the organization? A. LDAP. B. Radius. C. Kerberos. D. TACX. C. B. Questionno 316. Jane has recently implemented a new network design at her organization and wishes to passively identify security issues with the new network. Which of the following should Jane perform? A. Vulnerability assessment. B. Black box testing. C. White box testing. D. Penetration testing. A. 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 B. Questionno 320. Pete. The system administrator wants to restrict access to advertisements, games, and gambling websites. Which of the following devices would best achieve this goal? A. Firewall. B. Switch. C. URL content filter. D. Spam filter. C. Questionno 321. Pete. The system administrator wishes to monitor and limit users' access to external websites. Which of the following would best address this? A. Block all traffic on port 80. B. Implement NID. C. Use server load balancers. D. Install a proxy server. D. A. C. B. Questionno 325. Methods to test the responses of software and web applications to unusual or unexpected inputs is known as A. Brute force. B. HTML encoding. C. Web crawling. D. Fuzzing. D. Questionno 326. Pete needs to open ports on the firewall to allow for secure transmission of files. Which of the following ports should be opened on the firewall? A. TCP23. B. UDP69. C. TCP22. D. TCP21. C. Questionno 327. Sarah, a security architect, has developed a framework in which several authentication servers work together to increase processing power for an application. Which of the following does this represent? A. Warm site, B. Load balancing, C. Clustering, D. RAID. C. C. Questionno 329. Which of the following firewall rules only denies DNS zone transfers? A. Deny UDP any port 53, B. Deny IP any, C. Deny TCP any port 53, D. Deny all DNS packets. C. D. Questionno 331. Which of the following technologies can store multi-tenant data with different security requirements? A. Data loss prevention, B. Trusted platform module, C. Hard drive encryption, D. Cloud computing. D. B. Questionno 333. Which of the following types of encryption will help in protecting files on a PD? A. Mobile device encryption, B. Transport layer encryption, C. Encrypted hidden container, D. Database encryption. A. Questionno 334. Which of the following does full disk encryption prevent? A. Client-side attacks, B. Clear text access, C. Database theft, D. Network-based attacks. B. B. A. Questionno 337. Which of the following presents the strongest access control? A. MAC, B. TAC, C. DA, C. DR, B. AC. A. Questionno 338. Which of the following encompasses application patch management? A. Configuration management, B. Policy management, C. Cross-site request forgery, D. Fuzzing. A. Questionno 339. Sarah, an application developer, implemented error and exception handling alongside input validation. Which of the following does this help prevent? A. Buffer overflow, B. Pop-up blocker, C. Cross-site scripting, D. Fuzzing. A. Questionno 340. Which of the following is the least volatile when performing incident response procedures? A. Registers, B. RAID cache, C. RAM, D. Hard drive. D. A. D. B. D. Questionno 345. Which of the following can be implemented with multiple bit strength? A. AES-B does CSHA1 DMD5 EMD4. A. B. A. Questionno 348. A network stream needs to be encrypted. Sarah, the network administrator, has selected a cipher which will encrypt 8 bits at a time before sending the data across the network. Which of the following has Sarah selected? A. Block cipher, B. Stream cipher, C. CRCD hashing algorithm. A. B. Questionno 350. Which of the following devices is best suited for servers that need to store private keys? A. Hardware security module, B. Hardened network firewall, C. Solid state disk drive, D. Hardened host firewall. A. Questionno 351. All of the following are valid cryptographic hash functions except A. RAPMD, B. RC4, C. SHA512, DMD4. B. Questionno 352. In regards to secure coding practices, why is input validation important? A. It mitigates buffer overflow attacks. B. It makes the code more readable. C. It provides an application configuration baseline. D. It meets gray box testing standards. A. Questionno 353. Which of the following would be used when a higher level of security is desired for encryption key storage? A tag X plus BL2 TPCLDA PDTPM. D. Questionno 354. A security administrator needs to determine which system a particular user is trying to log into at various times of the day. Which of the following log types would the administrator check? A. Firewall. B. Application. C. IDSD security. D. Questionno 355. Which of the following must be updated immediately when an employee is terminated to prevent unauthorized access? A. Registration. B. CCRLD recovery agent. C. A. Questionno 357. Which of the following devices would most likely have a DMZ interface? A. Firewall. B. Switch. C. Load balancer. D. Proxy. A. Questionno 358. Which of the following application security testing techniques is implemented when an automated system generates random input data? A. Fuzzing. B. XSRFC hardening. D. Input validation. A. Questionno 359. Which of the following can be used by a security administrator to successfully recover a user's forgotten password on a password-protected file? A. Cognitive password. B. Password sniffing. C. Brute force. D. Social engineering. C. Questionno 360. A security administrator wants to check user password complexity. Which of the following is the best tool to use? A. Password history. B. Password logging. C. Password cracker. D. Password hashing. C. Questionno 361. Certificates are used for A. Client authentication. B. WAP encryption. C. Access control lists. D. Code signing. E. Password hashing. A. D. Questionno 362. Which of the following is a hardware-based encryption device? A. EFSB TrueCrypt. C. TPM DSLE. C. A. A. C. A. D. D. A. Questionno 369. Computer evidence at a crime is preserved by making an exact copy of the hard disk. Which of the following does this illustrate? A. Taking screenshots. B. System image capture. C. Chain of custody. D. Order of volatility. B. Questionno 370. Joe, an employee, is taking a taxi through a busy city and starts to receive unsolicited files sent to his smartphone. Which of the following is this an example of? A. Vishing. B. Blue jacking. C. War driving. D. Spam. E. Blue snarfing. B. Questionno 371. Which of the following concepts is used by digital signatures to ensure integrity of the data? A. Non-repudiation. B. Hashing. C. Transport encryption. D. Key escrow. B. Questionno 372. An employee recently lost a USB drive containing confidential customer data. Which of the following controls could be utilized to minimize the risk involved with the use of USB drives? A. DLP. Asset tracking. C. HSMD access control. A. Questionno 373. A company uses PGP to ensure that sensitive email is protected. Which of the following types of cryptography is being used here for the key exchange? A. Symmetric. B. Session-based. C. Hashing. D. Asymmetric. A. D. A. D. B. Questionno 378. An administrator has two servers and wants them to communicate with each other using a secure algorithm. Which of the following choose to provide both CRC integrity checks and RCA encryption? Untitled Chapter ECDHE. D. A. D. A. Questionno 382. A security administrator looking through IDS logs notices the following entry. Which of the following attacks had the administrator discovered? A. SQL injection. B. XML injection. C. Cross-site script. D. Header manipulation. C. D. C. Questionno 385. A company wants to ensure that all aspects of data are protected when sending to other sites within the enterprise. Which of the following would ensure some type of encryption is performed while data is in transit? A. SSH. B. SHA-1. C. TPM. DMD5. C. 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 A. Questionno 389. Which of the following attacks could be used to initiate a subsequent man-in-the-middle attack? A. ARP poisoning. B. DOS. A. Replay. D. Brute force. C. Questionno 390. Which of the following can only be mitigated through the use of technical controls rather than user security training? A. Shoulder surfing. B. Zero-day C. Vishing. D. Trojans. B. D. A. Questionno 393. Which of the following protocols provides for mutual authentication of the client and server? A. Two-factor authentication. B. Radius. C. Secure LDAPD biometrics. A. Questionno 394. Which of the following types of risk-reducing policies also has the added indirect benefit of cross-training employees when implemented? A. Least privilege. B. Job rotation. C. Mandatory vacations. D. Separation of duties. B. C. A. C. B. D. Topic 5. Volume E. Questionno 400. Which of the following file systems is from Microsoft and was included with their earliest operating systems? A. NTFS. B. Of C. NTFS. D. FAT. D. Questionno 401. The process of making certain that an entity is as secure as it can be is known as A. Stabilizing. B. Reinforcing. C. Hardening. D. Toughening. C. Questionno 402. What is the term for the process of luring someone in? A. Enticement. B. Entrapment. C. Deceit. D. Sting. A. A. C. A. C. Questionno 407. A security administrator wishes to change their wireless network so that IPsec is built into the protocol and that is no longer required for address range extension. Which of the following protocols should be used in the scenario? A. WPA2. B. WPA-C. IPv6. D. IPv4. C. C. Questionno 409. An IT auditor tests an application as an authenticated user. This is an example of which of the following types of testing? A. Penetration. B. White box. C. Black box. D. Gray box. D. A. Questionno 411. Which of the following is an important implementation consideration when deploying a wireless network that uses a shared password? A. Authentication server. B. Server certificate. C. Key length. D. EAP method. C. Questionno 412. Which of the following would satisfy wireless network implementation requirements to use mutual authentication and usernames and passwords? A. EAPMD5. B. WAPCP. EAPMSCHAPV2. D. EAPTLS. C. A. 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 Questionno 416. Which of the following network devices is used to analyze traffic between various network interfaces? A. Proxies. B. Firewalls. C. Content inspection. D. Sniffers. D. Questionno 417. Layer 7 devices used to prevent specific types of HTML tags are called: A. Firewalls. B. Content filters. C. Routers. D. NIDs. B. Questionno 418. A network administrator needs to provide daily network usage reports on all Layer 3 devices without compromising any data while gathering the information. Which of the following would be configured to provide these reports? A. SNMP. B. SNMPv3. C. ICMP. D. SSH. B. A. Questionno 420. Company A sends a PGP encrypted file to Company B. If Company A used Company B's public key to encrypt the file, which of the following should be used to decrypt data at Company B? A. Registration. B. Public key. C. CRLs. D. Private key. D. Questionno 421. Which of the following types of authentication solutions use tickets to provide access to various resources from a central location? A. Biometrics. B. PKICACLs. D. Kerberos. D. A. C. Questionno 424. Which of the following concepts is enforced by certifying that email communications have been sent by who the message says it has been sent by? A. Key escrow. B. Non-repudiation. C. Multi-factor authentication. D. Hashing. B. A. Questionno 426. Input validation is an important security defense because it: A. Rejects bad or malformed data. B. Enables verbose error reporting. C. Protects misconfigured web servers. D. Prevents denial of service attacks. A. A. B. D. A. Questionno 430. Which of the following provides the best application availability and is easily expanded as demand grows? A. Server virtualization. B. Load balancing. C. Active passive cluster. D. RAID 6. B. A. Questionno 432. Which of the following wireless security measures can an attacker defeat by spoofing certain properties of their network interface card? A. WAPB MAC filtering. C. Disabled SID broadcast. D. KIP. B. Questionno 433. Which of the following provides additional encryption strength by repeating the encryption process with additional keys? A. ESP3. D. ESC2 fish. D. Blowfish. B. Questionno 434. Which of the following best describes part of the PKI process? A. User 1 decrypts data with user 2's private key. B. User 1 hashes data with user 2's public key. C. User 1 hashes data with user 2's private key. D. User 1 encrypts data with user 2's public key. D. D. Questionno 436. A system administrator attempts to ping a hostname and the response is 2001-4860-2001-68. Which of the following replies has the administrator received? A. The loopback address. B. The local MAC address. C. IPv4 address. D. IPv6 address. D. Questionno 437. Which of the following allows a network administrator to implement an access control policy based on individual user characteristics and not on job function? A. Attributes-based. B. Implicit deny. C. Role-based. D. Role-based. A. C. Questionno 439. Which of the following allows lower-level domains to access resources in a separate public key infrastructure? A. Trust model. B. Recovery agent. C. Public key. D. Private key. A. Questionno 440. Which of the following offers the least secure encryption capabilities? A. Toothfish. B. PAP. C. NTLMD CHAP. B. Questionno 441. Which of the following network architecture concepts is used to securely isolate at the boundary between networks? A. VLAN. B. Subnetting. C. DMZ. DNAT. C. D. B. B. C. C. Questionno 447. Mandatory vacations are a security control which can be used to uncover which of the following? A. Fraud committed by a system administrator. B. Poor password security among users. C. The need for additional security staff. D. Software vulnerabilities in vendor code. A. Questionno 448. Each server on a subnet is configured to only allow SSH access from the administrator's workstation. Which of the following best describes this implementation? A. Host-based firewalls. B. Network firewalls. C. Network proxy. D. Host intrusion prevention. A. Questionno 449. During a security assessment, an administrator wishes to see which services are running on a remote server. Which of the following should the administrator use? A. Port scanner. B. Network sniffer. C. Protocol analyzer. D. Process list. A. Questionno 450. In which of the following categories would creating a corporate privacy policy, drafting acceptable use policies, and group-based access control be classified? A. Security control frameworks. B. Best practice. C. Access control methodologies. D. Compliance activity. B. Questionno 451. Disabling unnecessary services, restricting administrative access, and enabling auditing controls on a server are forms of which of the following? A. Application patch management. B. Cross-site scripting prevention. C. Creating a security baseline. D. System hardening. D. C. Questionno 453. Which of the following services are used to support authentication services for several local devices from a central location without the use of tokens? A. TagX plus. B. Smart cards. C. Biometrics. D. Kerberos. A. C. A. D. Questionno 457. A network analyst received a number of reports that impersonation was taking place on the network. Session tokens were deployed to mitigate this issue and defend against which of the following attacks? A. Replay. B. DDoS. C. Smurf. D. Ping of death. A. Questionno 458. Which of the following controls would prevent an employee from emailing unencrypted information to their personal email account over the corporate network? ADL. PBCRL. CTPMD. HSM. A. Questionno 459. Which of the following is a measure of biometrics performance which rates the ability of a system to correctly authenticate an authorized user? A. Failure to capture. B. Type 2. C. Mean time to register. D. Template capacity. B. C. D. 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 C. C. B. F. B. D. D. B. Questionno 471. Purchasing receives an automated phone call from a bank asking to input and verify credit card information. The phone number displayed on the caller ID matches the bank. Which of the following attack types is this? A. Hoax. B. Phishing. C. Vishing. D. Willing. C. Questionno 472. The IT department has set up a website with a series of questions to allow end users to reset their own accounts. Which of the following account management practices does this help? A. Account disablements. B. Password expiration. C. Password complexity. D. Password recovery. D. D. Questionno 474. An internal auditor is concerned with privilege creep that is associated with transfers inside the company. Which mitigation measure would detect and correct this? A. User rights reviews. B. Lease privilege and job rotation. C. Change management. D. Change control. A. Questionno 475. Which of the following is the default port for TFTP? A. 20. B. 69. C. 21. D. 68. B. Questionno 476. Which of the following concepts are included on the three sides of the security triangle? A. Confidentiality. B. Availability. C. Integrity. D. Authorization. E. Authentication. F. Continuity. A. B. C. Questionno 477. Which of the following concepts allows an organization to group large numbers of servers together in order to deliver a common service? A. Clustering. B. RAID. C. Backup redundancy. D. Cold site. A. Questionno 478. Which of the following security concepts identifies input variables which are then used to perform boundary testing? A. Application baseline. B. Application hardening. C. Secure coding. D. Fuzzing. D. Questionno 479. Users need to exchange a shared secret to begin communicating securely. Which of the following is another name for this symmetric key? A. Session key. B. Public key. C. Private key. D. Digital signature. A. Questionno 480. Which of the following cryptographic related browser settings allows an organization to communicate securely? A. SSL 3.0/TLS 1.0. B. 3D ESC trusted sites. D. HMAC. A. Questionno 481. Which of the following is the best reason to provide user awareness and training programs for organizational staff? A. To ensure proper use of social media. B. To reduce organizational IT risk. C. To detail business impact analyses. D. To train staff on 0 days. B. B. A. D. D. C. C. B. D. A. F. G. B. Questionno 493. During a routine audit, a web server is flagged for allowing the use of weak ciphers. Which of the following should be disabled to mitigate this risk? ASSL 1.0, BRC4, CSSL 3.0, DAES, EDES, FTLS 1.0. A. E. D. C. A. Questionno 497. Which of the following controls can be used to prevent the disclosure of sensitive information stored on a mobile device's removable media in the event that the device is lost or stolen? A. Hashing, B. Screen locks, C. Device password, D. Encryption. D. Questionno 498. Which of the following should be performed to increase the availability of IP telephony by prioritizing traffic? A. Subnetting, B. Net, C. Quality of service, D. NAC. C. Questionno 499. A malicious program modified entries in the host's file of an infected system. Which of the following protocols would have been affected by this? AICMP, BBGP, CNET, BIOS, DDNS. C. B. Questionno 501. Which of the following assets is most likely considered for DLP? A. Application server content, B. USB mass storage devices, C. Reverse proxy, D. Print server. B. A. B. A. A. B. C. B. Questionno 508. Which of the following should be enabled in a laptop's BIOS prior to full disk encryption? A. USB, B. HSM, C. RIG, D. TPM. D. C. Questionno 510. Digital signatures provide which of the following? A. Confidentiality, B. Authorization, C. Integrity, D. Authentication, E. Availability. C. Questionno 511. A user ID and password together provide which of the following? A. Authorization, B. Auditing, C. Authentication, D. Identification. C. Questionno 512. Radius provides which of the following? A. Authentication, authorization, availability, B. Authentication, authorization, auditing, C. Authentication, accounting, auditing, D. Authentication, authorization, accounting. D. C. Questionno 514. In order for network monitoring to work properly, you need a PC and a network card running in what mode? A. Launch, B. Exposed, C. Promiscuous, D. Sweep. C. Questionno 515. Which of the following utilities can be used in Linux to view a list of users' failed authentication attempts? A. Badlog, B. Failog, C. Wronglog, D. Keylog. B. Questionno 516. A periodic update that corrects problems in one version of a product is called a hotfix, B. Overhaul, C. Service Pack, D. Security update. C. B. Questionno 518. Which of the following techniques enables a highly secured organization to assess security weaknesses in real time? A. Access control lists, B. Continuous monitoring, C. Video surveillance, D. Baseline reporting. B. Questionno 519. Which of the following techniques can be used to prevent the disclosure of system information resulting from arbitrary inputs when implemented properly? A. Fuzzing, B. Patch management, C. Error handling, D. Strong passwords. C. D. Questionno 521. Which of the following is synonymous with a server certificate? A. Public key. B. CRLC, private key to recovery agent. A. Questionno 522. A network administrator noticed various chain messages have been received by the company. Which of the following security controls would need to be implemented to mitigate this issue? A. Anti-spam. B. Antivirus. C. Host-based firewalls. D. Anti-spyware. A. A. Questionno 524. Which of the following should be deployed to prevent the transmission of malicious traffic between virtual machines hosted on a singular physical device on a network? A. Hits on each virtual machine. B. Nips on the network. C. Nits on the network. D. Hits on each virtual machine. A. B. Questionno 526. Which of the following protocols is the security administrator observing in this packet capture? 12:33 and 43 seconds, SRC 192.168.4.33389, DST 10.67.33.208080, SYN-ACK HTTPS BRDPC HTTP DSFTP. B. D. B. C. Questionno 530. Which of the following protocols encapsulates an IP packet with an additional IP header? ASFTP, BIP6E, HTTPS, DSSL. B. C. B. A. Questionno 534. A user committing to work via public transport received an offensive image on their smartphone from another commuter. Which of the following attacks most likely took place? A. Word chalking. B. Blue jacking. C. Word driving. D. Blue snarfing. B. Questionno 535. An attacker attempted to compromise a web form by inserting the following input into the username field. Admin. Which of the following types of attacks was attempted? A. SQL injection. B. Cross-site scripting. C. Command injection. D. LDAP injection. D. Questionno 536. Which of the following is best carried out immediately after a security breach is discovered? A. Risk transference. B. Access control revalidation. C. Change management. D. Incident management. D. Questionno 537. Which of the following best describes the type of attack that is occurring? A. Smurf attack. B. Man in the middle. C. Backdoor. D. Replay. E. Spear phishing. F. Christmas attack. G. Blue jacking. H. Ping of death. A. Questionno 538. Which of the following best describes the type of attack that is occurring? A. DNS spoofing. B. Man in the middle. C. Backdoor. D. Replay. E. ARP attack. F. Spear phishing. G. Christmas attack. A. E. Questionno 539. Which of the following is a hardware-based security technology included in a computer? Asymmetric key. B. Asymmetric key. C. Whole disk encryption. D. Trusted platform module. D. A. Questionno 541. How often, at a minimum, should Sarah, an administrator, review the accesses and right of the users on her system? A. Annually. B. Immediately after an employee is terminated. C. Every 5 years. D. Every time they patch the server. A. Questionno 542. An administrator is concerned that a company's web server has not been patched. Which of the following would be the best assessment for the administrator to perform? A. Vulnerability scan. B. Risk assessment. C. Virus scan. D. Network sniffer. A. D. Questionno 544. A Trojan was recently discovered on a server. There are no concerns that there has been a security breach that allows unauthorized people to access data. The administrator should be looking for the presence of a logic bomb, B backdoor, C adware application, D root. B. Questionno 545. Which of the following protocols uses TCP instead of UDP and is incompatible with all previous versions? A TACX, B TACX, C Radius, D TACX Plus. D. Questionno 546. Which of the following symmetric key algorithms are examples of block ciphers? ARC4B3D ESC AESTMD5 EPGPF Blowfish. B. C. F. Questionno 547. Which of the following must be kept secret for a public key infrastructure to remain secure? A. Certificate authority, B. Certificate revocation list, C. Public keyring, D. Private key. D. Questionno 548. Which of the following devices is best suited to protect an HTTP-based application that is susceptible to injection attacks? A. Protocol filter, B. Load balancer, C. NIS, D. Layer 7 firewall. D. Questionno 549. Which of the following is best practice to put at the end of an ACL? A. Implicit deny, B. Time of day restriction, C. Implicit allow, D. SNMP string. A. Questionno 550. Which of the following security concepts can prevent a user from logging on from home during the weekends? A. Time of day restrictions, B. Multi-factor authentication, C. Implicit deny, D. Common access card. A. Questionno 551. Which of the following would provide the strongest encryption? A. Random one-time pad, B. DES with a 56-bit key, C. AES with a 256-bit key, D. RSA with a 1024-bit key. A. D. C. Questionno 554. Which of the following can be performed when an element of the company policy cannot be enforced by technical means? A. Develop a set of standards, B. Separation of duties, C. Develop a privacy policy, D. User training. D. Questionno 555. Timestamps and sequence numbers act as countermeasures against which of the following types of attacks? A. Smurf, B. DOS, C. Vishing, D. Replay. D. Questionno 556. Which of the following would be used as a secure substitute for Telnet? A. SSH, B. SFTP, C. SSL, D. HTTPS. A. Questionno 557. Which of the following is described as an attack against an application using a malicious file? A. Client-side attack, B. Spam, C. Impersonation attack, D. Phishing attack. A. Questionno 558. Which of the following assessment techniques would a security administrator implement to ensure that systems and software are developed properly? A. Baseline reporting, B. Input validation, C. Determine attack surface, D. Design reviews. D. Questionno 559. Which of the following would a security administrator implement in order to identify a problem between two applications that are not communicating properly? A. Protocol analyzer, B. Baseline reports, C. Risk assessment, D. Vulnerability scan. A. Questionno 560. Which of the following would a security administrator implement in order to identify change from the standard configuration on a server? A. Penetration test, B. Code review, C. Baseline review, D. Design review. C. Questionno 561. Which of the following tools would a security administrator use in order to identify all running services throughout an organization? A. Architectural review, B. Penetration test, C. Port scanner, D. Design review. C. Questionno 562. Which of the following protocols provides transport security for virtual terminal emulation? A. TLS, B. SSH, CSC, PDS, MIME. B. A. Questionno 564. Which of the following is an indication of an ongoing current problem? A. Alert. B. Trend. C. Alarm. D. Trap. C. Questionno 565. Which of the following a programming interface that allows a remote computer to run programs on a local machine? A. RPC. B. RSH. C. SSH. D. SSL. A. Questionno 566. Which of the following is the term for a fix for a known software problem? A. Skiff. B. Patch. C. Slipstream. D. Upgrade. B. Questionno 567. Connections using point-to-point protocol authenticate using which of the following? A. RIPM. B. PAP. C. CHAP. D. RC4 Kerberos. B. C. Questionno 568. Which of the following will help prevent Smurf attacks? A. Allowing necessary UDP packets in and out of the network. B. Disabling directed broadcast on border routers. C. Disabling unused services on the gateway firewall. D. Flash the BIOS with the latest firmware. B. Questionno 569. An advantage of virtualizing servers, databases, and office applications is A. Centralized management. B. Providing greater resources to users. C. Stronger access control. D. Decentralized management. A. Questionno 570. A major security risk with commingling of hosts with different security requirements is A. Security policy violations. B. Zombie attacks. C. Password compromises. D. Privilege creep. A. Questionno 571. Which of the following attacks targets high-level executives to gain company information? A. Phishing. B. Willing. C. Phishing. D. Spoofing. B. Questionno 572. Which of the following can be used as an equipment theft deterrent? A. Screen locks. B. GPS tracking. C. Cable locks. D. Whole disk encryption. C. Questionno 573. At the outside break area, an employee, Anne, asked another employee to let her into the building because her badge is missing. Which of the following does this describe? A. Shoulder surfing. B. Tailgating. C. Whaling. D. Impersonation. B. Questionno 574. A company that has a mandatory vacation policy has implemented which of the following controls? A. Risk control. B. Privacy control. C. Technical control. D. Physical control. A. Questionno 575. Which of the following is the most intrusive type of testing against a production system? A. White box testing. B. War dialing. C. Vulnerability testing. D. Penetration testing. D. D. Questionno 577. Which of the following devices would be most useful to ensure availability when there are a large number of requests to a certain website? A. Protocol analyzer. B. Load balancer. C. VPN concentrator. D. Web security gateway. B. Questionno 578. Which of the following uses port 22 by default? A. SSH. B. SSL. C. TLS. TSF. TP. ESCP. FFTP. SGSM. TP. HSNMP. A. D. E. Questionno 579. A software developer has installed some code to reactivate her account 1 week after her account has been disabled. Which of the following is this an example of? A. Root. B. Logic bomb. C. Botnet. D. Backdoor. E. Spyware. B. D. Questionno 580. The string or 1 equals 1 represents which of the following? A. Bluejacking. B. Rogue access point. C. SQL injection. D. Client-side attacks. C. D. Questionno 582. Which of the following can Joe, a security administrator, implement on his network to capture attack details that are occurring while also protecting his production network? A. Security logs. B. Protocol analyzer. C. Audit logs. D. Honeypot. D. Questionno 583. Which of the following should Joe, a security manager, implement to reduce the risk of employees working in collusion to embezzle funds from his company? A. Privacy policy. B. Least privilege. C. Acceptable use. D. Mandatory vacations. D. C. A. C. Questionno 586. A process in which the functionality of an application is tested without any knowledge of the internal mechanisms of the application is known as A. Black box testing, B. White box testing, C. Black hat testing, D. Gray box testing. A. Questionno 587. Which of the following tools would allow the security administrator to be able to best quantify all traffic on her network? A. Honeypot, B. Port scanner, C. Protocol analyzer, D. Vulnerability scanner. C. Questionno 588. N is starting a disaster recovery program. She has gathered specifics and team members for a meeting on site. Which of the following types of tests is this? A. Structured walkthrough, B. Full interruption test, C. Checklist test, D. Tabletop exercise. A. Questionno 589. An internal auditing team would like to strengthen the password policy to support special characters. Which of the following types of password controls would achieve this goal? A. Add reverse encryption, B. Password complexity, C. Increase password length, D. Allow single sign-on. B. D. A. A. Questionno 593. Which of the following ports should be opened on a firewall to allow for NetBIOS communication? A. 110, B. 137, C. 139, D. 143, E. 161, F. 443. B. C. D. Questionno 595. After a user logs into her banking websites, she has access to her financial institution mortgage, credit card, and brokerage websites as well. Which of the following is being described? A. Trusted OS, B. Mandatory access control, C. Separation of duties, D. Single sign-on. D. Questionno 596. Which of the following is a way to implement a technical control to mitigate data loss in case of a mobile device theft? A. Disk encryption, B. Encryption policy, C. Solid-state drive, D. Mobile device policy. A. D. A. B. D. Questionno 600. End-user awareness training for handling sensitive personally identifiable information would include secure storage and transmission of customer A. Date of birth, B. First and last name, C. Phone number, D. Employer name. A. Questionno 601. Which of the following risk mitigation strategies will allow a security analyst to enforce least privilege principles? A. User rights reviews, B. Incident management, C. Risk-based controls, D. Annual loss expectancy. A. B. Questionno 603. To ensure proper evidence collection, which of the following steps should be performed first? A. Take hashes from the live system, B. Review logs, C. Capture the system image, D. Copy all compromised files. C. Questionno 604. Joe, the security administrator, has determined that one of his web servers is under attack. Which of the following can help determine where the attack originated from? A. Capture system image, B. Record time offset, C. Screenshots, D. Network sniffing. D. D. A. Questionno 607. A security administrator wants to deploy a physical security control to limit an individual's access into a sensitive area. Which of the following should be implemented? A. Guards, B. CCTV, C. Bullets, D. Spike strip. A. B. Questionno 609. Which of the following results in data centers with failed humidity controls? A. Excessive MEB electrostatic charge, C. Improper ventilation, D. Condensation, E. Irregular temperature. D. C. Questionno 611. A security administrator is reviewing the below output from a password auditing tool, PASS, at Pico at 1 S3CU4. Which of the following additional policies should be implemented based on the tool's output? A. Password age. B. Password history. C. Password length. D. Password complexity. C. D. A. Questionno 614. Digital certificates can be used to ensure which of the following? A. Availability. B. Confidentiality. C. Verification. D. Authorization. E. Non-repudiation. B. E. A. Questionno 616. A quality assurance analyst is reviewing a new software product for security and has complete access to the code and data structures used by the developers. This is an example of which of the following types of testing? A. Black box. B. Penetration. C. Gray box. D. White box. D. A. Questionno 618. Which of the following types of cryptography should be used when minimal overhead is necessary for a mobile device? A. Block cipher. B. Elliptical curve cryptography. C. Diffie-Hellman algorithm. D. Stream cipher. B. B. Questionno 620. Configuring key-value pairs on a radius server is associated with deploying which of the following? A. WPA2 Enterprise Wireless Network. B. DNS Secondary Zone. C. Digital Certificates. D. Intrusion Detection System. A. A. C. B. Questionno 623. An administrator needs to segment internal traffic between layer 2 devices within a LAN. Which of the following types of network design elements would most likely be used? A. Routing. B. DMZ. C. VLAN. D. NAT. C. Questionno 624. The security administrator needs to restrict traffic on a layer 3 device to support FTP from a new remote site. Which of the following secure network administration principles will need to be implemented? A. Implicit deny. B. VLAN management. C. Port security. D. Access control lists. D. A. B. D. A. Questionno 629. A security analyst discovered data such as images and Word documents hidden within different types of files. Which of the following cryptographic concepts describes what was discovered? Asymmetric encryption. B. Non-repudiation. C. Steganography. D. Hashing. C. Questionno 630. Which of the following concepts describes the use of a one-way transformation in order to validate the integrity of a program? A. Hashing. B. Key escrow. C. Non-repudiation. D. Steganography. A. B. Questionno 632. Which of the following provides a static record of all certificates that are no longer valid? A. Private key. B. Recovery agent. C. CRL's DCA. C. Questionno 633. A company requires that a user's credentials include providing something they know and something they are in order to gain access to the network. Which of the following types of authentication is being described? A. Biometrics. B. Kerberos. C. Token. D. Two-factor. D. D. Questionno 635. Physical documents must be incinerated after a set retention period is reached. Which of the following attacks does this action remediate? A. Shoulder surfing. B. Dumpster diving. C. Phishing. D. Impersonation. B. Questionno 636. All executive officers have changed their monitor location so it cannot be easily viewed when passing by their offices. Which of the following attacks does this action remediate? A. Dumpster diving. B. Impersonation. C. Shoulder surfing. D. Whaling. C. Questionno 637. Which of the following protocols is vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attacks by not using end-to-end TLS encryption? A. HTTPS. B. WEPC. WPA. D. WPA2. C. Questionno 638. A security administrator has been tasked with setting up a new internal wireless network that must use end-to-end TLS. Which of the following may be used to meet this objective? A. WPA. B. HTTPS. C. WEPD. WPA2. D. B. B. D. Questionno 642. ACA is compromised and attacks start distributing maliciously sized software updates. Which of the following can be used to warn users about the malicious activity? A. Key escrow. B. Private key verification. C. Public key verification. D. Certificate revocation list. D. A. Questionno 644. Which of the following devices is most likely being used when processing the following? 1. Permit IP any EQ. 82. Deny IP any A. Firewall. B. nibc load balancer. D. URL filter. A. D. C. B. B. A. C. A. D. F. A. Questionno 653. A team of firewall administrators have access to a master password list containing service account passwords. Which of the following best protects the master password list? A. File encryption. B. Password hashing. C. USB encryption. D. Full disk encryption. A. C. C. D. C. Questionno 658. Which of the following authentication services should be replaced with a more secure alternative? A. Radius. B. TACX. C. TACX plus D. STICAX. B. B. Questionno 660. Which device monitors network traffic in a passive manner? A. Sniffer. B. IDSC firewall. D. web browser. A. Questionno 661. What is a system that is intended or designed to be broken into by an attacker? A. Honeypot. B. Honeybucket. C. Decoy. D. Spoofing system. A. Questionno 662. How must user accounts for exiting employees be handled? A. Disabled, regardless of the circumstances. B. Disabled if the employee has been terminated. C. Deleted, regardless of the circumstances. D. Deleted if the employee has been terminated. A. D. F. Questionno 664. Which of the following provides data the best fault tolerance at the lowest cost? A. Load balancing. B. Clustering. C. Server virtualization. D. RAID 6. D. Questionno 665. The librarian wants to secure the public internet kiosk PCs at the back of the library. Which of the following would be the most appropriate? A. Device encryption. B. Antivirus. C. Privacy screen. D. Cable locks. E. Remote wipe. B. D. Questionno 666A System Administrator wants to enable WPA2CCMP. Which of the following is the only encryption used? ARC4B.C3DESDAES. D. D. A. D. B. A. Questionno 672 Which of the following are examples of network segmentation? AIDSBIAASCDMZD subnet EIPS. C. D. Questionno 673 Which of the following provides the strongest authentication security on a wireless network? A. MAC filter. B. WPA2C WEPD disables SID broadcast. B. C. B. Questionno 676 Which of the following allows an organization to store a sensitive PKI component with a trusted third party? A. Trust model. B. Public key infrastructure. C. Private key. D. Key escrow. D. Questionno 677 Which of the following security devices can be replicated on a Linux-based computer using IP tables to inspect and properly handle network-based traffic? A. Sniffer. B. Router. C. Firewall. D. Switch. C. A. A. Questionno 680 When reviewing security logs, an administrator sees requests for the AAAA record of www.comsha.com. Which of the following best describes this type of record? A. DNS SEC record. B. IPv4 DNS record. C. IPsec DNS record. D. IPv6 DNS record. D. Questionno 681 Which of the following practices reduces the management burden of access management? A. Password complexity policies. B. User account audit. C. Log analysis and review. D. Group-based privileges. D. Questionno 682 Which of the following helps to apply the proper security controls to information? A. Data classification. B. Deduplication. C. Clean desk policy. D. Encryption. A. Questionno 683 Which of the following describes purposefully injecting extra input during testing, possibly causing an application to crash? A. Input validation. B. Exception handling. C. Application hardening. D. Fuzzing. D. Questionno 684 Which of the following types of security services are used to support authentication for remote users and devices? A. Biometrics. B. HSMC Radius. D. TechX. C. B. Questionno 686 A security administrator needs a locally stored record to remove the certificates of a terminated employee. Which of the following describes a service that could meet these requirements? AOCSPBPKIC D. D. Questionno 688 Which of the following relies on the use of shared secrets to protect communication? A. Radius. B. Kerberos. C. PKIDLDAP. A. B. Questionno 690 Which of the following concepts is a term that directly relates to customer privacy considerations? A. Data handling policies. B. Personally identifiable information. C. Information classification. D. Clean desk policies. B. Questionno 691 Which of the following is a data loss prevention strategy and is most useful for securing data in use? A. Email scanning. B. Content discovery. C. Database fingerprinting. D. Endpoint protection. D. B. C. B. Questionno 695. The practice of marking open wireless access points is called which of the following? A. War dialing, B. War chalking, C. War driving, D. Evil twin. B. Questionno 696. Multi-tenancy is a concept found in which of the following? A. Full disk encryption, B. Removable media, C. Cloud computing, D. Data loss prevention. C. Questionno 697. Which of the following is a common coding error in which boundary checking is not performed? A. Input validation, B. fuzzing, C. Secure coding, D. cross-site scripting. A. B. Questionno 699. One of the most consistently reported software security vulnerabilities that leads to major exploits is A. lack of malware detection, B. attack surface decrease, C. inadequate network hardening, D. poor input validation. D. Questionno 700. Public key certificates and keys that are compromised or were issued fraudulently are listed on which of the following? A. PKI, B. ACLC, CRL. D. C. Questionno 702. Users report that after downloading several applications, their system's performance has noticeably decreased. Which of the following would be used to validate programs prior to installing them? A. whole disk encryption, B. SSH, C. Telnet, D. MD5. D. C. Questionno 704. Which of the following protocols is used by IPv6 for MAC address resolution? A. NDPB, ARPC, DNS, DNCP. A. Questionno 705. Which of the following provides dedicated hardware-based cryptographic functions to an operating system and its applications running on laptops and desktops? A. TPM, HSMC, CPU, DFPU. A. Questionno 706. Which of the following tests a number of security controls in the least invasive manner? A. vulnerability scan, B. threat assessment, C. penetration test, D. ping sweep. A. Questionno 707. When using PGP, which of the following should the end user protect from compromise? A. private key, B. CRL details, C. public key, D. key password, E. key escrow, F. recovery agent. A. D. Questionno 708. Which of the following disaster recovery strategies has the highest cost and shortest recovery time? A. warm site, B. hot site, C. cold site, D. co-location site. B. A. C. Questionno 711. Which of the following ports should be used by a system administrator to securely manage a remote server? A. 22, B. 69, C. 137, D. 445. A. Questionno 712. Which of the following ports is used to securely transfer files between remote Unix systems? A. 21, B. 22, C. 69, D. 445. B. B. Questionno 714. Fuzzing is a security assessment technique that allows testers to analyze the behavior of software applications under which of the following conditions? A. unexpected input, B. invalid output, C. parameterized input, D. valid output. A. Questionno 715. Which of the following types of wireless attacks would be used specifically to impersonate another app in order to gain unauthorized information from mobile users? A. for attack, B. evil twin, C. war driving, D. rogue access point. B. Questionno 716. Which of the following types of application attacks would be used to identify malware causing security breaches that have not yet been identified by any trusted sources? A. 0-day LDAP injection, C. XML injection, D. directory traversal. A. Questionno 717. Which of the following is built into the hardware of most laptops but is not set up for centralized management by default? A. Whole disk encryption. B. TPM encryption. C. USB encryption. D. Individual file encryption. B. A. Questionno 719. Which of the following MOST specifically defines the procedures to follow when scheduled system patching fails resulting in system outages? A. Risk transference. B. Change management. C. Configuration management. D. Access control revalidation. B. C. Questionno 721. Which of the following would the security engineer set as the subnet mask for the servers below to utilize host addresses on separate broadcast domains? Server 1 192.168.100.6, Server 2 192.168.100.9, Server 3 192.168.100.28/24B/29E/30. Questionno 722. Which of the following offerings typically allows the customer to apply operating system patches? A. Software as a service. B. Public cloud. C. Cloud-based storage. D. Infrastructure as a service. D. Questionno 723. A technician is unable to manage a remote server. Which of the following ports should be opened on the firewall for remote server management? A. 22. B. 135. C. 137. D. 143. E. 443. F. 3389. A. F. A. C. D. D. Questionno 728. Which of the following firewall types inspects Ethernet traffic at the MOST levels of the OSI model? A. Packet filter firewall. B. Stateful firewall. C. Proxy firewall. D. Application firewall. B. Questionno 729. A security analyst needs to log on to the console to perform maintenance on a remote server. Which of the following protocols would provide secure access? ASCP, BSSH, CSFTP, DHCTPS. B. Questionno 730. A newly hired human resource employee sent out confidential emails with digital signatures to an unintended group. Which of the following would prevent her from denying accountability? A. Email encryption. B. State pornography. C. Non-repudiation. D. Access control. C. Questionno 731. A technician is attempting to establish a remote terminal session to an end-user's computer using Kerberos authentication, but she cannot connect to the destination machine. Which of the following default ports should an ensure is open? A. 22. B. 139. C. 443. D. 3389. D. Questionno 732. Concurrent use of a firewall, content filtering, antivirus software, and an IDS system would be considered components of A. Redundant systems. B. Separation of duties. C. Layered security. D. Application control. C. A. A. B. E. B. D. A. A. D. B. D. A. B. Questionno 745. A company recently experienced data loss when a server crashed due to a midday power outage. Which of the following should be used to prevent this from occurring again? A. Recovery procedures. B. ME shielding. C. Environmental monitoring. D. Redundancy. D. B. A. Questionno 748. A security manager requires fencing around the perimeter and cipher locks on all entrances. The manager is concerned with which of the following security controls? A. Integrity. B. Availability. C. Confidentiality. D. Safety. D. B. A. F. A. Questionno 752. A company's legacy server requires administration using Telnet. Which of the following protocols could be used to secure communication by offering encryption at a lower OSI layer? A. IPv6. B. SFTP. IPsec. D. SSHE. IPv4. A. C. B. Questionno 754. Which of the following describes the purpose of an MOU? A. Define interoperability requirements. B. Define data backup process. C. Define onboard-offboard procedure. D. Define responsibilities of each party. D. A. Questionno 756. Environmental control measures include which of the following? A. Access list. B. Lighting. C. Motion detection. D. ME shielding. D. Questionno 757. Which of the following is the best concept to maintain required but non-critical server availability? ASA. ASI. B. Cold site. C. Hot site. D. Warm site. D. C. Questionno 759. Which of the following technical controls helps to prevent smartphones from connecting to a corporate network? A. Application whitelisting. B. Remote wiping. C. Acceptable use policy. D. Mobile device management. D. Questionno 760. Which of the following would prevent a user from installing a program on a company-owned mobile device? A. Whitelisting. B. Access control list. C. Geotagging. D. Remote wipe. A. Questionno 761. Which of the following can be used to maintain a higher level of security in a SAN by allowing isolation of misconfigurations or faults? A. VLAN. B. Protocol security. C. Port security. D. SYN. D. Questionno 762. The act of magnetically erasing all of the data on a disk is known as A. Wiping. B. Dissolution. C. Scrubbing. D. Degaussing. D. A. A. B. B. A. C. B. A. F. A. B. D. D. Questionno 775. A hospital IT department wanted to secure its doctors' tablets. The IT department wants operating system level security and the ability to secure the data from alteration. Which of the following methods would most likely work? A. Cloud storage. B. Removal media. C. TPMD wiping. C. Questionno 776. Which of the following common access control models is commonly used on systems to ensure a need-to-know based on classification levels? A role-based access controls. B. Mandatory access controls. C. Discretionary access controls. D. Access control list. B. C. B. B. Questionno 780. Which of the following is best utilized to actively test security controls on a particular system? A. Port scanning. B. Penetration test. C. Vulnerability scanning. D. Gray box. B. Questionno 781. Which of the following has serious security implications for large organizations and can potentially allow an attacker to capture conversations? A. Subnetting. B. Net. C. Jabber. D. DMZ. C. Questionno 782. Upper management decides which risk to mitigate based on cost. This is an example of A. Qualitative risk assessment. B. Business impact analysis. C. Risk management framework. D. Quantitative risk assessment. D. Questionno 783. Matt, a security administrator, wants to ensure that the message he is sending does not get intercepted or modified in transit. This concern relates to which of the following concepts? A. Availability. B. Integrity. C. Accounting. D. Confidentiality. B. Questionno 784. Which of the following should be used when a business needs a block cipher with minimal key size for internal encryption? A. AES. B. Blowfish. C. RC5. D. 3DES. B. Questionno 785. Which of the following best practices makes a wireless network more difficult to find? A. Implement MAC filtering. B. Use WPA2 PSKC. Disable SSD broadcast. D. Power down unused WAPs. C. Questionno 786. The use of social networking sites introduces the risk of A. Disclosure of proprietary information. B. Data classification issues. C. Data availability issues. D. Broken chain of custody. A. Questionno 787. Which the following flags are used to establish a TCP connection? A. PSHB access and DURGEFIN. B. C. Questionno 788. Which of the following describes the process of removing unnecessary accounts and services from an application to reduce risk exposure? A. Error and exception handling. B. Application hardening. C. Application patch management. D. Cross-site script prevention. B. Questionno 789. Which of the following must Matt, a security administrator, implement to verify both the integrity and authenticity of a message while requiring a shared secret? A. RIPE BMD5. C. SHA. D. HMAC. D. Questionno 791. Which of the following software allows a network administrator to inspect the protocol header in order to troubleshoot network issues? A. URL filter. B. Spam filter. C. Packet sniffer. D. Switch. C. Questionno 790. Visitors entering a building are required to close the back door before the front door of the same entry room is open. Which of the following is being described? A. Tailgating. B. Fencing. C. Screening. D. Man trap. D. Questionno 794. Which of the following is where an unauthorized device is found allowing access to a network? A. Blue snarfing. B. Rogue access point. C. Honeypot. D. 4. Attack. B. Questionno 792. Which of the following ports would be blocked if Pete, a security administrator, wants to deny access to websites? A. 21. B. 25. C. 80. D. 3389. C. Questionno 793. Which of the following would Pete, a security administrator, do to limit a wireless signal from penetrating the exterior walls? A. Implement KIP encryption. B. Consider antenna placement. C. Disable the SID broadcast. D. Disable WPA. B. Questionno 797. Which of the following identifies certificates that have been compromised or suspected of being compromised? A. Certificate revocation list. B. Access control list. C. Key escrow registry. D. Certificate authority. A. Questionno 795. Which of the following attacks allows access to contact lists on cellular phones? A. Word chalking. B. Bluejacking. C. Packet sniffing. D. Blue snarfing. D. A. Questionno 796. Which of the following can hide confidential or malicious data in the white space of other files? A. Hashing. B. Transport encryption. C. Digital signatures. D. Steganography. D. Questionno 799. Which of the following is the most important step for preserving evidence during forensic procedures? A. Involve law enforcement. B. Chain of custody. C. Record the time of the incident. D. Report within 1 hour of discovery. B. Questionno 798. Which of the following best allows Pete, a security administrator, to determine the type, source, and flags of the packet traversing a network for troubleshooting purposes? A. Switches. B. Protocol analyzers. C. Routers. D. Web security gateways. B. B. Questionno 802. Which of the following is the most likely cause of users being unable to verify a single user's email signature and that user being unable to decrypt send messages? A. Unmatched key pairs. B. Corrupt key escrow. C. Weak public key. D. Weak private key. A. Questionno 803. Full disk encryption is most effective against which of the following threats? A. Denial of service by data destruction. B. Eavesdropping emanations. C. Malicious code. D. Theft of hardware. D. Questionno 804. Which of the following may cause Jane, the security administrator, to seek an ACO workaround? A. Zero-day exploit. B. Dumpster diving. C. Virus outbreak. D. Tailgating. A. Questionno 805. In order to use a two-way trust model, the security administrator must implement which of the following? A. DAC. B. PKIC. HTTPS. DTPM. B. Questionno 806. Which of the following would a security administrator use to verify the integrity of a file? A. Timestamp. B. MAC times. C. File descriptor. D. Hash. D. Questionno 807. Which of the following is a best practice when securing a switch from physical access? A. Disable unnecessary accounts. B. Print baseline configuration. C. Enable access lists. D. Disable unused ports. D. C. C. Questionno 810. Which of the following can be implemented if a security administrator wants only certain devices connecting to the wireless network? A. Disable SID broadcast. B. Install a radius server. C. Enable MAC filtering. D. Lowering power levels on the AP. C. Questionno 811. Which of the following malware types typically allows an attacker to monitor a user's computer, is characterized by a drive-by download, and requires no user interaction? A. Virus. B. Logic bomb. C. Spyware. D. Adware. C. Questionno 812. Which of the following malware types may require user interaction, does not hide itself, and is commonly identified by marketing pop-ups based on browsing habits? A. Botnet. B. Root. C. App. Or D. Virus. C. Questionno 813. Which of the following is characterized by an attack against a mobile device? A. Evil twin. B. Header manipulation. C. Bluejacking. D. Rogue AP. C. Questionno 814. Which of the following application attacks is used against a corporate directory service where there are unknown servers on the network? A. Rogue access point. B. Zero-day attacks. C. Packet sniffing. D. LDAP injection. D. Questionno 815. Which of the following protocols allows for the largest address space? A. IPXP. IPv4. C. IPv6. D. AppleTalk. C. Questionno 816 Who should be contacted first in the event of a security breach? A. Forensics analysis team. B. Internal auditors. C. Incident response team. D. Software vendors. C. A. A. Questionno 819 Which of the following access controls enforces permissions based on data labeling at specific levels? A. Mandatory access control. B. Separation of duties access control. C. Discretionary access control. D. Role-based access control. A. Questionno 820 Sarah, a security administrator, manually hashes all network device configuration files daily and compares them to the previous day's hashes. Which of the following security concepts is Sarah using? A. Confidentiality. B. Compliance. C. Integrity. D. Availability. C. Questionno 821 Which of the following would be used to identify the security posture of a network without actually exploiting any weaknesses? A. Penetration test. B. Code review. C. Vulnerability scan. D. Brute force scan. C. Questionno 822 Which of the following authentication services uses a ticket granting system to provide access? A. Radius. B. LDA PC TechX Plus. D. Kerberos. D. Questionno 823 Matt, a security administrator, wants to configure all the switches and routers in the network in order to securely monitor their status. Which of the following protocols would he need to configure on each device? ASMTP, BSNMP, V3C, IPsec, DSNMP. B. C. D. Questionno 825 The public key is used to perform which of the following? A. Validate the CRL. B. Validate the identity of an email sender. C. Encrypt messages. D. Perform key recovery. E. Decrypt messages. F. Perform key escrow. B. C. E. Questionno 826 Which of the following is best used to break a group of IP addresses into smaller network segments or blocks? A. NAT. B. Virtualization. C. NAC. D. Subnetting. D. Questionno 827 Which of the following would best be used to calculate the expected loss of an event if the likelihood of an event occurring is known? A. DAC. B. ALC. SLED. ROE. ROI. B. C. A. D. Questionno 830 Which of the following is best utilized to identify common misconfigurations throughout the enterprise? A. Vulnerability scanning. B. Port scanning. C. Penetration testing. D. Black box. A. Questionno 831 Which of the following is an attack vector that can cause extensive physical damage to a data gender without physical access? A. CCTV system access. B. Dial-up access. C. Changing environmental controls. D. Ping of death. C. Questionno 832 Which of the following policies is implemented in order to minimize data loss or theft? A. PI handling. B. Password policy. C. Chain of custody. D. Zero-day exploits. A. Questionno 833 Which of the following provides the highest level of confidentiality on a wireless network? A. Disabling SID broadcast. B. MAC filtering. C. WPA2D packet switching. C. C. Questionno 835 Which of the following should be implemented to stop an attacker from mapping out addresses and/or devices on a network? A. Single sign-on. B. IPv6. C. Secure zone transfers. D. VoIP. C. D. D. B. Questionno 839 Corporate IM presents multiple concerns to enterprise IT. Which of the following concerns should Jane, the IT security manager, ensure are under control? A. Authentication. B. Data leakage. C. Compliance. D. Malware. E. Non-repudiation. F. Network loading. B, C, D. Questionno 840 Account lockout is a mitigation strategy used by Jane, the administrator, to combat which of the following attacks? A. Spoofing. B. Man-in-the-middle. C. Dictionary. D. Brute force. E. Privilege escalation. C, D. Questionno 841 Which of the following controls mitigates the risk of an attacker gaining access to a company network by using a former employee's credential? A. Account expiration. B. Password complexity. C. Account lockout. D. Dual-factor authentication. A. A. Questionno 843 In order to prevent and detect fraud, which of the following should be implemented? A. Job rotation. B. Risk analysis. C. Incident management. D. Employee evaluations. A. Questionno 844 Which of the following best represents the goal of a vulnerability assessment? A. To test how a system reacts to known threats. B. To reduce the likelihood of exploitation. C. To determine the system's security posture. D. To analyze risk mitigation strategies. C. B. A. Questionno 847 Which of the following cryptographic algorithms is most often used with IPsec? A. Blowfish. B. Twofish. C. RC4. D. HMAC. D. Questionno 848 Users require access to a certain server depending on their job function. Which of the following would be the most appropriate strategy for securing the server? A. Common access card. B. Role-based access control. C. Discretionary access control. D. Mandatory access control. B. Questionno 849 Pete, a security administrator, has observed repeated attempts to break into the network. Which of the following is designed to stop an intrusion on the network? A. NIDS. B. HIDS. C. HIPS. D. NIDS. A. Questionno 850 Which of the following would Pete, a security administrator, most likely implement in order to allow employees to have secure remote access to certain internal network services such as file servers? A. Packet filtering firewall. B. VPN gateway. C. Switch to router. B. Questionno 851 Which of the following should be done before resetting a user's password due to expiration? A. Verify the user's domain membership. B. Verify the user's identity. C. Advise the user of new policies. D. Verify the proper group membership. B. Questionno 852 Which of the following hardware-based encryption devices is used as a part of multi-factor authentication to access a secured computing system? A. Database encryption. B. USB encryption. C. Whole disk encryption. D. TPM. B. Questionno 853 Establishing a published chart of roles, responsibilities, and chain of command to be used during a disaster is an example of which of the following? A. Fault tolerance. B. Succession planning. C. Business continuity testing. D. Recovery point objectives. B. Questionno 854 In PKI, a key pair consists of A. key ring. B. A public key. C. A private key. D. Key escrow. E. A passphrase. B. C. Questionno 855 Speaking a passphrase into a voice print analyzer is an example of which of the following security concepts? A. Two-factor authentication. B. Identification and authorization. C. Single sign-on. D. Single-factor authentication. A. Questionno 856 Which of the following secure file transfer methods uses port 22 by default? A. FTP. B. SFTP. C. SSL. D. SMIME. B. Questionno 857 While setting up a secure wireless corporate network, which of the following should Pete, an administrator, avoid implementing? A. EAPTLS. B. PEAPCWEPDWPA. C. Questionno 858 Due to limited resources, a company must reduce their hardware budget while still maintaining availability. Which of the following would most likely help them achieve their objectives? A. Virtualization. B. Remote access. C. Network access control. D. Blade servers. A. Questionno 859. A user has several random browser windows opening on their computer. Which of the following programs can be installed on his machine to help prevent this from happening? A. Antivirus. B. Pop-up blocker. C. Spyware blocker. D. Anti-spam. B. Questionno 860. A company is installing a new security measure that would allow one person at a time to be authenticated to an area without human interaction. Which of the following does this describe? A. Fencing. B. Mantrap. C. A guard. D. Video surveillance. B. Questionno 861. When employees that use certificates leave the company, they should be added to which of the following? A. PKI. B. CCRL. D. KIP. C. A. Questionno 863. An administrator is looking to implement a security device which will be able to not only detect network intrusions at the organization level, but help defend against them as well. Which of the following is being described there? A. NIDS. B. NIPS. C. HIPS. D. HIDS. B. Questionno 864. A company has implemented PPTP as a VPN solution. Which of the following ports would need to be opened on the firewall in order for this VPN to function properly? A. UDP 1723. B. TCP 500. C. TCP 1723. D. UDP 47. E. TCP 47. C. D. Questionno 865. Mike, a user, states that he is receiving several unwanted emails about home loans. Which of the following is this an example of? A. Spear phishing. B. Hoaxes. C. Spoofing. D. Spam. D. Questionno 866. Which of the following must a user implement if they want to send a secret message to a coworker by embedding it within an image? A. Transport encryption. B. Steganography. C. Hashing. D. Digital signature. B. C. D. Questionno 869. Which of the following is the best method for ensuring all files and folders are encrypted on all corporate laptops where the file structures are unknown? A. Folder encryption. B. File encryption. C. Whole disk encryption. D. Steganography. C. Questionno 870. Encryption used by Radius is best described as A. Quantum. B. Elliptical curve. C. Asymmetric. D. Symmetric. D. Questionno 871. Which of the following is used by the recipient of a digitally signed email to verify the identity of the sender? A. Recipient's private key. B. Sender's public key. C. Recipient's public key. D. Sender's private key. B. D. C. Questionno 874. Which of the following security benefits would be gained by disabling a terminated user account rather than deleting it? A. Retention of user keys. B. Increased logging on access attempts. C. Retention of user directories and files. D. Access to quarantine files. A. Questionno 875. Which of the following security architecture elements also has sniffer functionality? A. HSMB. IPS. CSSL accelerator. D. WAP. IDS. B. E. C. Questionno 877. Which of the following should a security technician implement to identify untrusted certificates? A. Copy. PKI. CCRL. D. Recovery agent. C. Questionno 878. Pete, an employee needs a certificate to encrypt data. Which of the following would issue Pete a certificate? A. Certification authority. B. Key escrow. C. Certificate revocation list. D. Registration authority. A. Questionno 879. Sarah, a security engineer, is testing encryption ciphers for performance. Which of the following ciphers offers strong encryption with the fastest speed? A. 3D ESP Blowfish. C. Serpent. D. AES 256. B. Questionno 880. Which of the following is an authentication method that can be secured by using SSL? A. Radius. B. LDAPC TechX plus D. Kerberos. B. C. Questionno 882 Jane, a VPN administrator, was asked to implement an encryption cipher with a minimum effective security of 128 bits. Which of the following should Jane select for the tunnel encryption? A. Blowfish, B. Does CSHA 256D HMAC. A. Questionno 883 Which of the following uses both a public and private key? A. RSABAES CMD5D SHA. A. Questionno 884 Which of the following would Matt, a security administrator, use to encrypt transmissions from an internal database to an internal server, keeping in mind that the encryption process must add as little latency to the process as possible? A. CCB RSAC SHA D3DES. D. A. Questionno 886 The data center manager is reviewing a problem with a humidity factor that is too low. Which of the following environmental problems may occur? A. Emanations, B. Static electricity, C. Condensation, D. Dry pipe fire suppression. B. Questionno 887 A Unix administrator would like to use native commands to provide a secure way of connecting to other devices remotely and to securely transfer files. Which of the following protocols could be utilized? A. RDP, BSN, MPC, FTP, DSCP 186 ESSH. D. E. Questionno 888 A network administrator has purchased two devices that will act as failovers for each other. Which of the following concepts does this best illustrate? A. Authentication, B. Integrity, C. Confidentiality, D. Availability. D. A. F. A. D. Questionno 892 In intrusion detection system vernacular, which account is responsible for setting the security policy for an organization? A. Supervisor, B. Administrator, C. Root, D. Director. B. Questionno 893 Which of the following is the process in which a law enforcement officer or a government agent encourages or induces a person to commit a crime when the potential criminal expresses a desire not to go ahead? A. Enticement, B. Entrapment, C. Deceit, D. Sting. B. Questionno 894 Which of the following types of logs could provide clues that someone has been attempting to compromise the SQL server database? A. Event, B. SQL log, C. Security, D. Access. A. C. Questionno 896 A security administrator wants to deploy security controls to mitigate the threat of company employees' personal information being captured online. Which of the following would best serve this purpose? A. Anti-spyware, B. Antivirus, C. Host-based firewall, D. Web content filter. A. D. D. Topic 10, Volume J Questionno 899 After a production outage, which of the following documents contains detailed information on the order in which the system should be restored to service? A. Succession planning, B. Disaster recovery plan, C. Information security plan, D. Business impact analysis. B. Questionno 900 Which of the following wireless protocols could be vulnerable to a brute force password attack? A. WPA2 PSK, B. WPA EAP TLSC, WPA2 CCMP, D. WPA CCMP, E. WPA LEAP, FWEP. A. E. C. Questionno 902 Which of the following types of trust models is used by a PKI? A. Transitive, B. Open source, C. Decentralized, Decentralized. D. Questionno 903. A technician has implemented a system in which all workstations on the network will receive security updates on the same schedule. Which of the following concepts does this illustrate? A. Patch management. B. Application hardening. C. White box testing. D. Black box testing. A. Questionno 904. Which of the following offers the least amount of protection against data theft by USB drives? A. DLPB database encryption. C. TPMD cloud computing. D. Questionno 905. A security administrator develops a web page and limits input into their fields on the web page as well as filters special characters in output. The administrator is trying to prevent which of the following attacks? A. Spoofing. B. XSS. C. Fuzzing. D. Farming. B. B. Questionno 907. Several users report to the administrator that they are having issues downloading files from the file server. Which of the following assessment tools can be used to determine if there is an issue with the file server? A. MAC filter list. B. Recovery agent. C. Baselines. D. Access list. C. B. Questionno 909. An administrator configures all wireless access points to make use of a new network certificate authority. Which of the following is being used? A. WEPB LEAP. C. EAPTL Estate KIP. C. B. A. C. A. Questionno 914. Digital signatures are used for ensuring which of the following items? A. Confidentiality. B. Integrity. C. Non-repudiation. D. Availability. E. Algorithm strength. B. C. B. C. Questionno 917. Which of the following are restricted to 64-bit block sizes? A. PGPB. DUS. C. AES 256. D. RSAE 3. D. ESFAES. B. E. Questionno 918. Public keys are used for which of the following? A. Decrypting wireless messages. B. Decrypting the hash of an electronic signature. C. Bulk encryption of IP-based email traffic. D. Encrypting web browser traffic. B. Questionno 919. Which of the following is a requirement when implementing PKI if data loss is unacceptable? A. Web of trust. B. Non-repudiation. C. Key escrow. D. Certificate revocation list. C. D. E. Questionno 921. The recovery agent is used to recover the A. Root certificate. B. Key in escrow. C. Public key. D. Private key. D. Questionno 922. Which of the following is true about the CRL? A. It should be kept public. B. It signs other keys. C. It must be kept secret. D. It must be encrypted. A. A. C. Questionno 925. Allowing unauthorized removable devices to connect to computers increases the risk of which of the following? A. Data leakage prevention. B. Data exfiltration. C. Data classification. D. Data deduplication. B. Questionno 926. A computer is put into a restricted FLAN until the computer's virus definitions are up to date. Which of the following best describes the system type? A. NET. B. NIP. C. NEC. D. DMZ. C. C. Questionno 928. According to company policy, an administrator must logically keep the human resources department separated from the accounting department. Which of the following would be the simplest way to accomplish this? A. NIDS. B. DMZ. C. NET. D. VLAN. D. Questionno 929. Which of the following tools will allow a technician to detect security-related TCP connection anomalies? A. Logical token. B. Performance monitor. C. Public key infrastructure. D. Trusted platform module. B. C. Questionno 931. Without validating user input, an application becomes vulnerable to all of the following except A. Buffer overflow, B. Command injection, C. Spear phishing, D. SQL injection. C. Questionno 932. To protect corporate data on removable media, a security policy should mandate that all removable devices use which of the following? A. Full disk encryption, B. Application isolation, C. Digital rights management, D. Data execution prevention. A. Questionno 933. Which of the following wireless security technologies continuously supplies new keys for WEP? A. KIP, B. MAC filtering, C. WPA2, D. WPA. A. Questionno 934. Which of the following malware types is most likely to execute its payload after an employee has left the company? A. Root, B. Logic bomb, C. RAM, D. botnet. B. Questionno 935. Which of the following application security principles involves inputting random data into a program? A. Brute force attack, B. Sniffing, C. Fuzzing, D. Buffer overflow. C. Questionno 936. Which of the following is an important step in the initial stages of deploying a host-based firewall? A. Selecting identification versus authentication, B. Determining the list of exceptions, C. Choosing an encryption algorithm, D. Setting time of day restrictions. B. Questionno 937. Identifying a list of all approved software on a system is a step in which of the following practices? A. Passively testing security controls, B. Application hardening, C. Host software baselining, D. Client-side targeting. C. Questionno 938. Which of the following best describes using a smart card and typing in a PIN to gain access to a system? A. Biometrics, B. PKIC single-factor authentication, D. Multi-factor authentication. D. B. B. A. Questionno 942. An administrator wishes to hide the network addresses of an internal network when connecting to the Internet. The most effective way to mask the network address of the users would be by passing the traffic through A. Stateful firewall, B. Packet filtering firewall, C. NIPS DNAT. D. C. D. Questionno 945. Symmetric encryption utilizes blank, while asymmetric encryption utilizes blank. A. Public keys, one-time, B. Shared keys, private keys, C. Private keys, session keys, D. Private keys, public keys. B. B. D. Questionno 948. A security technician needs to open ports on a firewall to allow for domain name resolution. Which of the following ports should be opened? A. TCP/21, B. TCP/23, C. TCP/53, D. UDP/23, E. UDP/53. C. E. C. C. Questionno 951. Which of the following data security techniques will allow an IT security technician to encrypt a system with speed as its primary consideration? A. Hard drive encryption, B. Infrastructure as a service, C. Software-based encryption, D. Data loss prevention. A. Questionno 952 Matt, a forensic analyst, wants to obtain the digital fingerprint for a given message. The message is 160 bits long. Which of the following hashing methods would Matt have to use to obtain this digital fingerprint? ASHA1 BMD2 CMD4 DMD5. A. D. B. D. B. C. D. Questionno 958 Jane has implemented an array of 4 servers to accomplish one specific task. This is best known as which of the following? A. Clustering, B. RAID, C. Load balancing, D. Virtualization. A. Questionno 959 Which of the following security account management techniques should a security analyst implement to prevent staff who has switched company roles from exceeding privileges? A. Internal account audits, B. Account disablement, C. Time of day restriction, D. Password complexity. A. D. Questionno 961 After a new firewall has been installed, devices cannot obtain a new IP address. Which of the following ports should MAT, the security administrator, open on the firewall? A25B68C80D443. B. B. A. B. B. C. D. A. C. B. Questionno 971 Used in conjunction, which of the following are pi? A. Marital status, B. Favorite movie, C. Pet's name, D. Birthday, E. Full name. D. E. Questionno 972 Which of the following is the best way to prevent cross-site request forgery attacks? A. Check the referrer field in the HTTP header, B. Disable flash content, C. Use only cookies for authentication, D. Use only HTTPS URLs. A. Questionno 973 Which of the following practices is used to mitigate a known security vulnerability? A. Application fuzzing, B. Patch management, C. Password cracking, D. Auditing security logs. B. Questionno 974 Which of the following would Jane, an administrator, use to detect an unknown security vulnerability? A. Patch management, B. Application fuzzing, C. ID badge, D. Application configuration baseline. B. Questionno 975 When reviewing a digital certificate for accuracy, which of the following would MAT, a security administrator, focus on to determine who affirms the identity of the certificate owner? A. Trust models, B. CRL, C. Code recovery agent. C. Questionno 976 Which of the following is a notification that an unusual condition exists and should be investigated? A. Alert, B. Trend, C. Alarm, D. Trap. A. Questionno 977 If you don't know the MAC address of a Linux-based machine, what command line utility can you use to ascertain it? A. Mconfig, B. ifconfig, C. ipconfig, D. config. B. A. C. Questionno 979 An administrator is assigned to monitor servers in a data center. A web server connected to the internet suddenly experiences a large spike in CPU activity. Which of the following is the most likely cause? A. Spyware, B. Trojan, C. Privilege escalation, D. DOS. D. Questionno 980. Why would a technician use a password cracker? A. To look for weak passwords on the network. B. To change a user's passwords when they leave the company. C. To enforce password complexity requirements. D. To change users' passwords if they have forgotten them. A. D. Questionno 982. Requiring technicians to report spyware infections is a step in which of the following: A. Routine audits. B. Change management. C. Incident management. D. Clean desk policy. C. C. Questionno 984. Which of the following provides the least availability? A. RAID 0. B. RAID 1. C. RAID 3. D. RAID 5. A. Questionno 985. FTPS uses which of the following TCP ports by default? A. 20 and 21. B. 139 and 445. C. 443 and 22. D. 989 and 990. D. Questionno 986. Which of the following is mainly used for remote access into the network? A. STICX. B. TACX plus. C. Kerberos. D. Radius. D. Questionno 987. Which of the following types of data encryption would a security administrator use to encrypt a specific table? A. Full disk. B. Individual file. C. Database. D. Removable media. C. Questionno 988. Several users' computers are no longer responding normally and sending out spam email to the user's entire contact list. This is an example of which of the following? A. Trojan virus. B. Botnet. C. Worm outbreak. D. Logic bomb. C. C. Questionno 990. A company replaces a number of devices with a mobile appliance, combining several functions. Which of the following descriptions fits this new implementation? A. Cloud computing. B. Virtualization. C. All-in-one device. D. Load balancing. E. Single point of failure. C. E. Questionno 991. Which of the following risks could IT management be mitigating by removing an all-in-one device? A. Continuity of operations. B. Input validation. C. Single point of failure. D. Single sign-on. C. D. Questionno 993. Which of the following concepts defines the requirement for data availability? A. Authentication to radius. B. Non-repudiation of email messages. C. Disaster recovery planning. D. Encryption of email messages. C. D. A. A. Questionno 997. Which of the following techniques describes the use of application isolation during execution to prevent system compromise if the application is compromised? A. Least privilege. B. Sandboxing. C. Black box. D. Application hardening. B. Questionno 998. Matt, an IT administrator, wants to protect a newly built server from zero-day attacks. Which of the following would provide the best level of protection? A. HIPS. B. Antivirus. C. NITS. D. ACL. A. A. B. Questionno 1001. Which of the following data loss prevention strategies mitigates the risk of replacing hard drives that cannot be sanitized? A. Virtualization. B. Patch management. C. Full disk encryption. D. Database encryption. C. B. B. D. A. Questionno 1006. Which of the following protocols would be implemented to secure file transfers using SSL? A. TFTP. B. SCP. C. SFTP. D. FTPS. D. Questionno 1007. Which of the following are used to implement VPNs? ASFTP BIP6E HTTPS TSN MPESSL. B. E. Questionno 1008. A company recently implemented a TLS on their network. The company is most concerned with A. Confidentiality, B. Availability, C. Integrity, D. Accessibility. A. Questionno 1009. Which of the following describes how an attacker can send unwanted advertisements to a mobile device? A. Man in the middle, B. Blue jacking, C. Blue snarfing, D. Packet sniffing. B. Questionno 1010. A network device that protects an enterprise based only on source and destination addresses is best described as AIDS, B. ACL, C. Stateful packet filtering, D. Simple packet filtering. D. A. C. Questionno 1013. Power and data cables from the network center travel through the building's boiler room. Which of the following should be used to prevent data emanation? A. Video monitoring, B. ME shielding, C. Plenum Kit 6 UTPD fire suppression. B. Questionno 1014. Which of the following must a security administrator implement to isolate public-facing servers from both the corporate network and the Internet? A. NACB IPsec CDMZDNet. C. Questionno 1015. Which of the following protocols provides fast, unreliable file transfer? A. TFTP, B. SFTP, C. Telnet, D. FTPS. A. Questionno 1016. Which of the following digital certificate management practices will ensure that a lost certificate is not compromised? A. Key escrow, B. Non-repudiation, C. Recovery agent, D. CRL. D. C. D. A. Questionno 1020. A customer has provided an email address and password to a website as part of the login process. Which of the following best describes the email address? A. Identification, B. Authorization, C. Access control, D. Authentication. A. Questionno 1021. Which of the following is designed to ensure high availability of web-based applications? A. Proxies, B. Load balancers, C. URL filtering, D. Routers. B. Questionno 1022. The administrator would like to implement hardware-assisted full-disk encryption on laptops. Which of the following would most likely be used to meet this goal? ATPMB USB drive, C. Key escrow, D. PKI. A. Questionno 1023. Jane, a security administrator, wants to harden the web server. Which of the following could she perform to accomplish this task? A. Implement remote sanitization, B. Disable unnecessary services, C. Install mantraps in the data center, D. Compare baseline configurations. B. Questionno 1024. Which of the following policies could be implemented to help prevent users from displaying their login credentials in open view for everyone to see? A. Privacy, B. Clean desk, C. Job rotation, D. Password complexity. B. Questionno 1025. Which of the following is another, more common, name for EPO? A. LDAP, B. 802.1x, C. LDAP, SD 802.12. B. Questionno 1026. If you don't know the MAC address of a Windows-based machine, what command line utility can you use to ascertain it? A. mconfig, B. ifconfig, C. ipconfig, D. config. C. Questionno 1027. In the Windows world, what tool is used to disable a port? A. System Manager, B. System Monitor, C. Performance Monitor, D. Windows Firewall. D. A. Questionno 1029. A perimeter survey finds that the wireless network within a facility is easily reachable outside of the physical perimeter. Which of the following should be adjusted to mitigate this risk? A. CCMP, B. MAC filter, C. SID broadcast, D. Power level controls. D. Questionno 1030. Which of the following would verify that a threat does exist and security controls can easily be bypassed without actively testing an application? A. Protocol analyzer. B. Vulnerability scan. C. Penetration test. D. Port scanner. B. Questionno 1031. An administrator values transport security strength above network speed when implementing an SSL VPN. Which of the following encryption ciphers would best meet their needs? A. SHA-256. B. RC4C3. D. ESDA ES128. D. Questionno 1032. All of the following are encryption types except A. Full disk. B. SMIME. C. File and folder. D. Radius. D. Questionno 1033. Which of the following is used by MAT, a security administrator, to lower the risks associated with electrostatic discharge, corrosion, and thermal breakdown? A. Temperature and humidity controls. B. Routine audits. C. Fire suppression and ME shielding. D. Hot and cold aisles. A. Questionno 1034. When integrating source material from an open source project into a highly secure environment, which of the following precautions should prevent hidden threats? A. Design review. B. Code review. C. Risk assessment. D. Vulnerability scan. B. Questionno 1035. Which of the following would most likely belong in the DMZ? A. Finance servers. B. Backup servers. C. Web servers. D. SMTP gateways. E. Laptops. C. D. Questionno 1036. When verifying file integrity on a remote system that is bandwidth limited, which of the following tool combinations provides the strongest confidence? AMD5 and 3D ESBMD5 and SHA1C SHA256 and RSAD SHA256 and AES. B.